And listen to me, I'm sick of it. I'm taking the gloves off. You quit preaching heresy that Jesus is not supposed to be named Jesus. Let me tell you something. He didn't do the Lord's Supper the way. No, you're wrong on the Lord's Supper, and you're also letting the whole world go to hell. You're a doo-doo head. Correct me if I'm wrong, did you get a call this afternoon? And listen to me, I'm sick of it. I'm taking the gloves off. And I'm sick of all these little baby Christians that they're like, oh, let's stop fighting. There's a reason why this world's going to hell. I'm saying a lot of these pastors are not even saved. And they've been planted there by the devil. These demonic deacons and demonic pastors and demonic evangelists and demonic missionaries have been put behind the pulpit to pervert. You're a doo-doo head. And listen to me, I'm sick of it. I'm taking the gloves off. Pervert the gospel, pervert doctrine. I believe he's not a pastor, he's a demon. Otherwise, how do you explain it? Riddle me this. Here's the proof. Here's the evidence. I'm not going to let this country be taken over by these bunch of phony doo-doo heads. Fools, half their congregation doo-doo heads. There's something weird going on in our country. Why don't you come up to me after you? Why don't you come up to me after? I'm sick of it. Riddle me this. They love their own little religion that they've created. Riddle me this. Birds of a feather flock together. Riddle me this. I would rather go to hell. Worthless. Christians. And you know what? Christians. Worthless.
Tyrant district, here he goes, crossing himself. Oh! He's done.
Ready for takeoff.
Is this thing on? Is that camera on? Turn that goddamn camera on. That camera on? Put that camera on me. Put that camera on me right now. Kenthoven, I'm coming for you. You done fucked up. See, I knew if I challenged you to a debate on your channel, you'd record it. And then once I whooped your monkey ass all over the internet, you would hide it. There's no way you would release it. But I did something smarter, because while your dumbass is still struggling to figure out the rules to checkers while pretending you're playing chess, me and my supercomputer evolutionary algorithm are evolving a brain that is motherfucking whooping the ass of world champions at Go. You are levels and 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 levels out of your motherfucking league. See, while I earned a dual PhD at the motherfucking Michigan State University after my bachelor's and master's at Penn State University, that's right, master's, go state, biological anthropology. You're fucked. Then I joined the Lenski Lab at Michigan State. Dual PhD, integrative biology and ecology, evolutionary biology and behavior. You're fucked. Then I moved on to the experimental research lab of Dr. Mike Travisano at the motherfucking University of Minnesota. Go motherfucking Gophers. Big Ten, all throughout, all up in this bitch. 3 very legit universities. Go fuck yourself, you're fucked. What did your lazy ass do? You went to some bullshit ass hole in the wall. That's a compliment. It's a motherfucking trailer in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, where you wrote some piece of shit toilet paper dissertation that I will rip up in your face to show you that it is not worth a goddamn thing, Kenthoven. I am coming for your ass. August 29th, on motherfucking Donnie's channel, searching for delusion, standing for lies, reasoning for evidence, hiding underneath the blanket of Christian delusion, whatever Donnie's calling his channel these days, Kent. It really doesn't matter. I hope you bring all your friends, your family, your wives, your ex-wives, your fucking people at your compound, all your motherfucking staff, because believe me, I am rolling deep with the cult of the flying man. The Most High Apostle is coming for that ass. And best believe my co-pastors will be in the building, the ushers will be in the building, the motherfucking congregants will be gathered, the drinks will be poured, the weed will be in the goddamn air, and we will be celebrating as I roast your monkey ass!
Look in my eyes, what do you see? A cult of personality.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Pocket Locker Podcast. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. Folks, we just had to throw it back, just remind you of what that was like a little bit less than a year ago when we had the debate of the summer with Ken Hovind. I just missed the promo, so I kind of uploaded it so I could show it in Restream again. All right, gang, let's go ahead and jump into our communion so we can get into the meat and potatoes of our show. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're ready to link up with the gang. Cheers, gang. It's good to see everybody here in the chat. Love you guys. You guys could be anywhere this Saturday evening, and I'm super happy that you're with me. Yeah, Karen, maybe we'll rewatch that debate or something, like on the year anniversary or something. That might be a decent idea. All right, gang, let's go ahead and jump into our music for today.
When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed.
Love you guys so much.
You just remember what your old pal said, but you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me.
Scott, make sure you ask for permission first.
You got troubles. Well, I
What's
got
up, Scott,
two.
dude?
There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together and we'll see it through. 'Cause you got a friend in me. Some other folks might be a little smarter than I am. Bigger and stronger too.
Oops, got that.
But none of them is ever gonna love you the way I do.
Nice.
It's me and you. And as the years go by,
Good shit, Carrie.
our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's my destiny. 'Cause you got a
Congratulations,
friend
Kata.
in
That's
me.
awesome.
And now you got a friend in me.
Good for you.
You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Ow!
Nice. All right. We've got one more for you. Let's go ahead and get into that. It's a new one for the stream. Trying to get some new music in here.
Like a fool, I went and stayed too long.
Let me change the question. All right, gang. Let's go ahead and take off on this shit. Now, the first subject of today is basically the overall shittiness that is pretty much our daily existence at this point. It's I was thinking about how, there's that narrative of sort of a bygone era, about everybody needs to get out more, and you need to go make some friends in the real world and stop being on your screen all day or whatever. And I'm sure there's a lot of validity to that, but I was thinking about how funny it is that most of these people who say shit like that to you, like, sit at home on their couch and watch TV all day, and there's very little interactivity involved. And I think about how all those sort of those narratives sort of missed the boat in terms of the realities of, say, for instance, how social video gaming has become, and things like that. But there's still a lot of issues, and I think we're in this phase where, like, people are just online, and that's a huge part of our lives, and ends up being a huge part of how we connect and relate to other people. And so Lena shared this really cool video with us the other day in Gather, and so that's one of the benefits of Gather is we can watch content together as a group and talk about it and share different things, and actually make decisions as a part of, like, as more community focused, right? Like, as content creators, we get feedback on things we're interested in doing or thinking about doing, and sometimes also, like in this case, people can share things with us, and then we can talk about whether or not we want to do a stream on it. Speaking of Lena, now that I've got this move done and this proposal submitted, obviously Lena and I will probably get back to focused on making members-only content. So do go down and check out the Ko-Fi link in the description. And one of the benefits of supporting our community, in addition to helping us out, increase our capacity and Gather, is that you get members only content, which I typically make with Lena. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this video. It's called "Why Everything Sucks." I mean, I don't know how. Gang, what would you do? How do you tee up a fucking video called "Why Everything Sucks"? Like you're like, all right, and the segue for this is. Hang on, this is gonna be awful. No. Good video, tough topic. All right, here we go. All right. So sorry, I was trying to skip the capitalism there at the beginning. Y'all know how it is with the blase and the flavonoids. All right, let's share this one. Boom.
Instagram, and it loves me back. Yeah, me neither. If you've been feeling some anti-platform hostility recently, you're not the only one. Now, obviously, mocking Facebook for descending into minion-filled boomer memes has become cliche. But in recent
All right, let's pause the tape because already I see people drifting. I see the eyes glazing over. Okay, I'm a goddamn great instructor. I could see that type of shit. You know, you'd be amazed what I know about what you're doing right now. Some of y'all are nasty and need to put pants on or something on your bottom area. All right, now, but let's realize that we're doing a YouTube live stream. I do tend to do these streams. These streams are actually live on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Sorry, I had to think about it as I was saying it. But most people watch on YouTube, and once in a while we get a couple people watching on Twitch. So, you know, let's go through this with platforms like YouTube in mind, and maybe Twitch. A lot of it will apply, some of it doesn't. But let's think about that. Also, you know, I don't want to dunk too much on social media because I feel like that's an easy way to skirt around the fact that I should actually use it more and use it more effectively. Like, it's a great way to grow the community. And so I really do feel like I should do more on social media. We'll chat about that down the road, figure out what we think would be most effective. But anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and just make sure we're keeping our platforms in mind.
years, there's been tons of media analysis about how each platform, from Instagram to YouTube to Snapchat to more recently Twitter and Twitch and TikTok, have all gotten kind of crappy. And when Twitter won't stop recommending Nazi-adjacent accounts, or TikTok is freely sharing data on your love of hedgehogs, or your favorite streamers threaten to leave Twitch, it's easy to wonder if it's just time to pull a digital Irish exit. But for many of us, self included, social media isn't just a solid way to waste time. It's a way to make new online-only friends or build communities. So how did your favorite...
Yeah, and this gets at something that I take very seriously about what I do on this channel and in this community, is that for me, I participate in what I call permanently virtual communities. And so a good way to think about that is, if I was playing basketball or as a musician, I'm a musician, right? So if I decide to be in a band, there are virtual bands and they are doing super cool shit, and I'd love to play in one someday. But for the most part, I'd probably be using social media, their social media for musicians, or running around town, right? And I'd be trying to find local musicians to play with, and then we would be, or find a band that's looking for a drummer, right? And then we'd be trying to play local gigs. And we still might use Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, right, to show our rehearsals or help book gigs or help, reach fans and stuff like that, or just to, document our journey. But the social media would sort of be in service of, an activity, playing music together that's based in person. And the thing that really started to get me think about permanently online communities, it wasn't actually like podcasting and YouTube. It was, to be honest, it was my motorcycle club on GTA. I realized that for whatever reason, my social life in Michigan has always been very limited. Like, I was in grad school, so I worked, I taught, and I went to the gym, and I saw people. I had like a dating life or whatever. But aside from that, like I didn't have like a lot of friends or like a big social circle. I had a few close friends, but never more than that. And I realized that like when I would go through different things in life, ups and downs, challenges and triumphs, it really was my club that was there. First, I had to join the club in a really difficult time in my life that, I'm really grateful for them because it was just such a rough time. I don't, it's really important to me to have an outlet like that. I've been in the club for like 5 years now or some shit like that. Going, I think, what is it, 2017? I guess this is my 6th year in the club. It'll be 6 years, I think, in November, December-ish or whatever the fuck. And, like, there's talk of, like, meeting in person. Always has been. And some people live close enough to each other that they've met. Like, a bunch of people live in Texas, for instance. But there's no real optimism that we'll ever see the day that we all physically live in driving proximity of a real clubhouse and call each other by our legal name. Like I wouldn't even want to. Like I find it very weird when I learn one of their legal names some way or another. Like sometimes we have to send each other gifts or stuff like that, Secret Santa, that type of shit. You might learn somebody's real name, and it's always you're like interesting, and then you go back to calling them what you've been calling them for years, and you're not gonna call them John all of a sudden. Like fuck out of here, it's weird. So yeah, and I think that's different for me too, like as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, right? Because I do take the friendships and the relationships I make online very seriously, and I don't see it as any less real or less significant or important to me than my other relationships. Matter of fact, I sometimes think with the right people, you get a more authentic side of someone. You learn quickly someone's either there for you or they're not. Someone is usually themselves. Like people don't really have sometimes as much reason to like put on airs or be phony. So I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely a big factor for how I think about these things because I'm not someone who thinks that it's just as simple as, oh, I'm not happy with the way YouTube is, or I'm not happy with the way this, I'm not happy on Twitter or whatever, so I'm just going to unplug. It is kind of rough because you rely on other people's participation. Like, like our Discord's awesome. But there are certainly personalities that can come and go that make a big difference in terms of the level of activity there, right? And it's awesome now when it's 100+ people, and it took a lot of people really being invested in it to get it there, and we probably need to put more work into it, right? Or Gather has had ups and downs. It was really, things got really kind of like not as many people were there sort of like the last month or so because I was moving and dealing with the grant at the same time. was a very meaningful period for me because it reminds me of finishing my PhD. Like when I finished my PhD, I was like alone. It's, you know, everybody's dealing with their pandemic, whatever's been very isolated. And the YouTube community was like really important for me. Just having people to talk to and interact with regularly, right? But it was weird in the sense that during that time period, we were just talking to people, like not really making a lot of content on the platform. And so it's different now because, you know, Gather allows us to be so much closer. So going through the move and going and having to work on the proposal, it was like really, really important to me to have people to interact with, because that was a tremendously trying time. So yeah, so it's like it's always moving.
Friendships get held hostage by the likes of Elon Musk. And what does this conundrum say about contemporary society? Well, let's find out in this Wisecrack edition. Is the age of online friendship over? Okay guys, before we get into it, I wanted to give a special thanks to this video sponsor, Schedule 35. We're living in an era where people are talking about psychedelics more than ever and how they're useful in clinical settings and to treat depression and anxiety and all sorts of things. And it can be pretty confusing, especially for those of us who grew up in an era where we were taught to be very scared of these things. And this is why we're very happy to partner with Schedule 35. If you are interested to know more about what's currently happening with psychedelics and learning more about the culture around them, Schedule 35 has a lot to offer. So you can go to their website, schedule35.co, and if you grab anything while you're there, you can use code WISECRACK for 15% off. Now, because there's a lot of questions you might have about this sort of thing, they've told us you can hit them up via their DMs.
All right, capitalism.
It all boils down to the question, what do we do when our friendships are mediated via online platforms that are just getting sketchier and sketchier? Well, let's start by looking at why every social media platform seems to go to the dogs just as it's reaching peak popularity. Journalist Cory Doctorow offers an easy catchphrase for this effect: and shitification. Yeah, I really said that.
And shitification, like, I love it.
Like they're getting. It's a fun word. It's a fun word. Like
the enshitification of everything.
Now, the way he describes it, every platform, including social media platforms, goes through the exact same life cycle. First, they are good to their users. Then they abuse their users to make things better for their business customers. Finally, they abuse those business customers to claw back all the value for themselves. Then they die. So let's unpack. In the first phase, Dr. Rowe writes the platform needs users, so it makes itself valuable to users.
My goodness.
Take Facebook, which had to seduce users off MySpace. And to do so, it offered things like the news feed, which aggregated everything you actually wanted to see from your network. It was legitimately valuable and free, as Dr. O explains in an interview. And so that's the first stage. We're not spying on you. We're showing you the things that the people you like are saying. The second phase, once the platform is going strong, is that it starts to leverage its user growth to attract business customers, like advertisers or publishers. Dr. O explains, and so to the advertisers they say, remember when we told our users that we were never going to spy on them? We changed our mind. We've actually got a ton of surveillance data on them, and we will let you use that really cheaply. Then to the media companies, Facebook offers a funnel to drive traffic to your own website via media posts and links with excerpts. Suddenly you, the user's newsfeed, starts being populated with ads and media posts you never asked for. And Facebook stands to just make a butt ton of profit from your eyeballs. So Dr. O surmises, step 2, we're going to be good to our business customers at the expense of the users, of course. Then stage 3, you turn the screws on your business partners. Facebook starts showing publishers content less frequently unless they post more content, especially content that can be consumed entirely on Facebook. Think of the infamously catastrophic pivot to video that so many media companies attempted around 2015 after Facebook claimed it averaged more than 1 billion views per day. To be clear, this is the thing that Wisecrack tried. I don't know if there's still some videos made out there. We made a couple shows for Facebook. There's like one I thought was pretty dumb and one I thought was pretty good. I don't know if they're still there. You can try to find them and see if you know which one I think was dumb and which one you think was good. Who knows? Advertisers were eager to get in on it, so publishers invested heavily in video. By 2016, Facebook admitted it had inflated the watch time to advertisers by 60 to 80%.
Oh,
and many
my
media
goodness.
outlets that had faithfully followed the money went kaput. At the time, media critic John Herman argued that Facebook had purposefully cannibalized contemporary media, writing that Facebook is more interested in hosting the things media companies make than just spreading them, that have used links to outside pages as a problem to be solved. Going forward, publishers had to create content that lived entirely on Facebook and then pay to have that content boosted. At the same time, advertisers were getting screwed in a myriad of ways, including Jedi Blue, an agreement between Facebook and Google that artificially gave Facebook better deals on ads, or as Dr. O puts it, they agreed to charge advertisers more, pay publishers less, and pocket the difference. You know, classic Jedi stuff. The sort of stuff that the Jedis do in Star Wars. Advertising, publishing, pocketing the difference. Normal things that Jedis do. So here's the problem as Dr. O sees it. They've made this bad deal for users. They made this bad deal for advertisers who made this bad deal for publishers, but they tried to leave enough goodies in the system that users don't leave. Advertisers don't leave and publishers don't leave. In fact, unless a compelling competitor comes along, Facebook has a monopoly over a lot of online business and over people's online lives. That means if you want to be a part of a group for chronically ill folks, or an activist community, or an I need to sneeze and it's gone community, you're forced to accept shitty ads, annoying videos, and now well-documented surveillance every time you engage. And the bigger the platform grows, the more power it has over users and business partners to dictate the terms of the ecosystem, and thus the terms of our digital friendships. Now, to contextualize the significance of online friendship, it helps to very briefly think about how we got here. Flashback to 1999, when I figured out how to plug my dad's work laptop into a phone line and log on to the magical internet. And it wasn't just acne-faced Michael cruising AOL chat rooms, as online traffic in the US was set to grow more than 1,000% over 4 years. Guys, the early days of AOL chat rooms, I know I've talked about it before, really a Wild West situation. Fun yet terrifying, and I probably just talked to so many criminals. The rise of blogging and personal homepages had recently given way to nascent social media sites like 6 Degrees, which I'll be honest, I never heard of and didn't know existed until we wrote this script. These sites multiplied in the early 2000s, and by 2006, then thriving MySpace had 100 million users, though it would be overtaken by Facebook by early 2009, thanks in part to the popular news feed. By 2012, Facebook had fostered 125 billion friendships. Now, while all this was happening, Twitter started connecting you to the entire world rather than basing your network around an existing community, and most new social platforms would follow that model. Professor and game designer Ian Bogost argues that while social networking as initially envisioned was primarily about building connections, social media as we know it today, beginning with the launch of Twitter, is primarily about using diffuse connections to facilitate the flow of content. As platforms for connecting and exchanging information in every conceivable way it proliferated, scholars took note of their real-world implications. By 2008, scholar David Beer argued that as social networking sites became mundane, the version of friendship they offered begins to remediate and shape understandings of friendship more generally. This was
All right, so this is this whole deal about just the idea that the quality of relationships you can have is mediated by the platform, right? And as the platform becomes, you know, a commercialized shithole, then the quality. But it's really interesting too, because I think about this like, I don't know, bars in a sense, right? Hang on a sec. Sam is desperately trying. Sam, what are you doing right now, bro? He's trying to jump on the chair, but I don't know if he can't. He can. He just Sam, get on the chair. What are you doing, bud? What's wrong with you? I'm trying to do a show right now. I think of it as like a scene, like a bar scene, right? Like you have friends, and your friends are dope, right? And sometimes y'all find like really, you know, chill spots that are like off the beaten path. Like I remember when my friends and I found this fucking God, I don't even know what this place was actually supposed to be. Maybe it was some sort of coffee shop or something, but like it was real different. Like it was very small, and you know, you'd get stoned and go there, and you'd like sit on the floor and shit. And it was a place that it felt like the majority of the people where we lived had not found, and if they found, they would not spend their time there. And so it was a great place that made us feel like the bonding experience we were having was super cool. But at the same time, like we could have a good time at Perkins, you know, we could hit up the Perkins and just, you know, get a decent breakfast and roll through Wawa, grab some French vanilla cappuccinos and drive around, you know? Yeah. Remember them days? This was good shit. What's my point? My point is that this is like, that's the obvious part, right? Like that's cool. Like you want to be somewhere with your friends. That's a vibe, right? You want to not be somewhere with your friends. That's not a vibe. And for the most part though, when you're in person, the quality of your relationship is flexible. And yeah, sure, it probably would fizzle out. Like, let's say you had a friend and y'all came up through middle school together, you like went to high school together, and now you're in college together. I mean, you guys have been friends for like 9 years or some shit like that. You're close, you're tight like fucking sisters. But when you go to fucking college, for whatever reason, you make your new ritual that you go out together every Thursday night, you hit the fucking clubs, you fucking burn it down, you wake up Friday morning, grab coffee, and boom, you're done. That's your thing. That's what y'all fucking do, right? Now, let's say for whatever reason, y'all stop getting coffee on Friday morning because somebody, I don't know, it interferes with somebody's personal training, or one of y'all has a fucking meeting or a class or whatever the fuck, right? So now all y'all do is hit the clubs and burn it down every Thursday night. Well, yeah, like eventually your friendship might really suffer from that, right? Because you're not still spending quality time together. You're not visiting with each other's families during the holidays. You know, you're not having time to really talk about your relationships or whatever, like, you know. And if God forbid one of you stops drinking or gets in a fucking relationship and stops partying like that, right, your whole relationship might fall apart. But for the most part, relationships are flexible. If we start going to a club and we're like, this place is kind of dead, we won't go here anymore, then you'll do something else. What's different about what we're talking about is like you don't have that flexibility in a lot of your relationships. Like if you have a friend who you only talk with on Twitter, you met on Twitter and y'all just Twitter, then like y'all just Twitter and that's it. Like if y'all got to figure something else out. And if you decide you don't really like the options you have, that's the mediation of your entire relationship. So it's not like you could, for instance, build your relationship up around, well, for the most part, you know, you come to the house and we sit down in my living room and we talk. And then every once in a while we hit the Twitter bar. It's like the entire relationship is filtered through the platform. All right, let's roll.
Most true for young people who are inherently more likely to seek out peer connection and also more tech adept from growing up online. Indeed, while connecting with others online used to be the sole terrain of tech-savvy hobbyists, by 2015, 57% of teens said they had made new friends online, with a full 29% saying they'd made more than 5. Now, we couldn't find contemporaneous numbers for 2023, but I don't know, it feels pretty fair to assume that those stats are now much higher. And a slew of new research about adults confirms what many of us know intuitively. It's become increasingly common to make friends online, whether through social media or gaming, and to have those friendships convert into in-person interactions. Though a lot of the surveys we've found have been done by companies like Bumble, who's hosting this, and World of Warships, so take them with whatever grain of salt you find appropriate. Now, hilariously and somewhat irrelevantly, a new study even shows that parrots can similarly form strong social relationships over Facebook video that actually improve their health. And as someone who is deeply worried about the health of parrots, this fact really hits home with me. I'm glad the parrots are healthy via their video chats. Actually, you know what? I've said it before, I'll say it again. Birds. Changes in how we make and maintain friends has real ramifications. Scholar Paul Byron argues that social media use has expanded friendships' practices, meanings, and dimensions by offering new experiments in sharing, supporting, and feeling supported through single acts of disclosure to one's broad networks. Think about it. Before social media, there was no way to instantly tell all your closest friends you were depressed and hopefully get a pile-on of love and care. Now, Byron argues that this has real implications
Exactly.
as broader social networks have become more accessible when we require attention, support, validation, and care. Indeed, Byron's research has found that young people report receiving more mental health support online than from families, schools, and professional healthcare centers.
Yeah, and let me just relate to that real quick. This is what I'm talking about, gang. Let me tell you something. Moving, like I'm learning to adjust and embrace being single. Like, I'm that person who, for whatever reason, at least as I experience it, I'm sure if you talk to other people, that it might be a different story. But at least the way I experience it, I was that person who always would get really serious. Like, oh, I need to learn how to like be by myself. I need to learn how to be happy and content and fulfilled on my own. And then boom, I'm in a relationship. Like it was always like somehow deciding that I needed to get good at being alone sent fucking pheromones out into the fucking ether and accelerated the timeline to me being in another relationship. And the one good thing about fucking COVID was like the one thing I did not want to do was be around people. And I kind of still don't. And so I've had to like for real get good at being alone. And I tried to have like a little girlfriend for a little while, and y'all, she was terrible. And I was like, nope. Being alone was definitely way better than that shit. Holy crap. Yikes. That was a nightmare. All right. So what am I saying? Like, when I moved though, moving is the singlest of the single experience. Like you get good. You could get good at being single. You could get good. You're like, I don't have a partner. I don't got a family. I ain't responsible for nobody. God damn it. Do I have to take this? I got to take this dog out. I got to walk the dog. I got to feed the dog. That's mostly it. Other than that, I just got to take care of me and I'm good. All right. But when you move, gang, first off, you realize you have so much stuff. You're like, how do I have the moving needs of a family of 4, but there's absolutely nobody in my life? What kind of shit is this? All right. And then there's literally no one to help you. Like no one. So you do everything by yourself. So you really have time to really marinate on just how alone in this world you actually are. And so for me, like, just being able to like check in together, and UC Love was like always there, and Lena was always there, and we could just listen to some Uncle Bobby for a while I bust down some boxes or load the fucking moving truck, right? Like that was an example of that time for me where you just need to be reminded that there are people in your life and that everything's going to be okay, and we could try to have a little fun while you go through this process, right? And it's the same thing when work gets intense. You know what I'm saying? Like this proposal, gang, that Rodrigo, it's a project that we've been working on for a long time. It's like a DEI training program, and basically it's something nobody ever knew if there was a real program or deadline for it. And so we had some meetings and we were like, yeah, let's try to get this thing done by the end of the summer. Oh, that sounds good. Everybody's like, all right, cool. And then they turn on and like, turns out there's a program for this, and yeah, we need this done in like 2 weeks. So me and Rodrigo have just been like busting our asses like crazy to get this proposal done. Like been up till 3-4 o'clock in the morning working every night, like just insane. And again, like without this community, it would just be me sitting alone in a room, writing a grant that's probably not gonna get funded, and just just really feeling it. But thanks to the gang, it was cool. We were, staying up on what's going on in the community, having fun, watching streams, and you just feel like you have so much support. So there is, and that's what I mean. Like and when you go through that, and you have to experience that for yourself. I think that's the key, right? I think for a lot of people, your online relationships are always going to be limited because you put limits on them yourself, right? Like an example being, if you're the type of person who says, when I get busy or I have a major assignment at work, I have to completely check out. I can't be on YouTube. I can't talk to my friends. Well, that's a totally reasonable decision. Like I don't blame anybody for doing that. Like that's cool. You got to focus, get your shit done. But at the same time, right, you're never get the feeling of what it's like to have the support of your community through that, because you're not giving the community an opportunity to support you through it. Or if you're the type of person who, decides, okay, I need to get serious about my fitness and my diet, and I got to stop fucking around on YouTube. You're basically determining right then that I can't do self-improvement and fuck around with atheists on YouTube simultaneously. Like that's a form of walking and chewing gum at the same time that I'm not interested in, right? So you're gonna naturally experience this thing where it's like, oh wow, I check out of YouTube and all of a sudden I'm hitting the gym and eating clean. So it really is like risky. Like it's like you've got to kind of take a risk with some people, with the community. And I'm trying to build this up, but eventually what I'm leading to, gang, is you have to be more intentional about how you interact with people, right? And I think for us, that means like YouTube's probably not the best way, right? Because you might need to check out from YouTube because it does feed toxicity in a way, right? The algorithm is trying to like keep you enraged and keep you, dealing with politics and fucking an apologist and all this shit. So I know that, like, I cannot tell you how many times I've been in somebody's stream back in the day, like a Pine Creek stream or a fucking Bread of Life stream or modern day debates, is 2 + 2 actually 4? Because that's literally their debates these days. That's like perfectly good mind. Is 2 + 2 really 4? And how do we know, right? And we're gonna sit here for fucking 200 minutes and debate, is 2 + 2 really 4, right? But why are you there? Because that's where the homies are. That's where the fam is, right? But if you hit up the fam on Discord, right, then you could just be like, yo, let's have a quick video chat, or you could just be chatting with people in side rooms. You could be sending each other videos like, yo, watch this, and then y'all could be chatting about what you actually want, what you wish you could be watching with people, right? But you won't give yourself that opportunity if you don't use a different platform. For us, obviously, Gather's been big, but we'll talk more about that as we get into the conclusions, I'm sure.
And this was especially true for queer youth. As youth culture and technology expert Dana Boyd notes, friending someone on social media is akin to community building and can help facilitate conversations that might be harder to have in the meat world, especially for marginalized groups. Byron writes that for many, the social burdens of being part of a marginalized group are tempered through a sense of solidarity and shared struggle. This solidarity has been generative of identities, political strategies, and social policy reform. Such solidarities are as intimate as they are political. While online relationships are often dismissed as less meaningful because someone might be lying or misrepresenting themselves, scholar Nancy Baim notes that the paucity or lack of personal and social identity cues can also make people feel safer and thus create an environment in which they are more honest.
There it is.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I feel like I probably lie more in life and am more honest online.
Boom,
and
exactly.
there was a discussion in my family. This is a real thing, guys. There was a discussion in my family about how I was being too honest and reckless on Twitter. And to that I say, don't follow me. That is to say,
Yeah, no. But this is so interesting, gang, because this is what I'm dealing with, right? Like I'm so raw and honest with y'all that now I think that's caused, I don't want to say cause, but that's been a big part of the struggle with my family. Like a part of with my struggle with my family is that, like, I don't go along with like the whatever our in-person like narrative was, right? It was so, you know, even as I got into the period of my life where I was an atheist and a scientist and all this type of stuff, I was kind of like, look the other way and say what you got to say just to go along. You know, you call, because I'm the type of person I call, and, you know, my grandparents don't say hello, they say, praise the Lord, you know. And you're like, praise the Lord, grandma. You know, you gotta do that shit, you know. But now I'm so raw with y'all. I'm like, no. You do realize you can't tell, you know, you can't, yeah. See, when you say praise the Lord, that's a command. You're commanding the other person to praise your God. In this case, one I don't believe in. Do you know how inappropriate it is to actually demand that somebody who doesn't believe in your religion praise your God as a greeting? Well, right? I'm different now, right? Like you can't, right? But this is what I'm talking about. Like online, you get real, and so you're like, wait, no, how? If y'all gonna talk about my online friends, but you try and be my family or my friend in real life, like you. What, you think I'm gonna be less real with you than I am with the fan fam? No. See, but that's, to me, that's empowering. That's uplifting. That is, you have a space to work through it, to practice, to have solidarity, to know you're not alone in this. And then now when you go and you deal with other people who are in your life, you're like, look, I'm able to better articulate my feelings and my perspective, and I'm a better advocate for myself. But it is shocking, and part of what I think I've had to accept, and a lot of us will, is that we're kind of the people that change, right? There's that whole thing of, I know, like for myself, I feel betrayed a lot by my loved ones because they have not gone on a similar journey that I have. And I feel like they're under some obligation to, if for no other reason than they should be concerned about the validity of their beliefs, right? But for whatever reason, they just haven't. And it's hard for me to accept, but sometimes I have to remember that they're still consistent with the way things have pretty much always been, whereas like I'm the one who now is out of line with the sort of status quo within the family or social circle or whatever, because I've gone through sort of radical change. And that's, you know, circles right back to the meaningfulness of your online relationships, because sometimes that is our safest space. That is our realest space. That is, you know, I sometimes have the feeling like, I'm gonna be real, like I remember today, like just little shit, y'all. Like it's kind of funny, but I hope y'all see where I'm going with this. But like little shit, like today, I kind of needed to go pick up the remainder of a prescription, and one of my prescriptions is a controlled substance, so I have to go pick it up. I have everything delivered, but I can't have this one delivered. So I get on my bike, my little motorcycle or whatever, and I'm riding, and I go, and I notice that it's kind of starting to drizzle a little bit. And so in my head, I just like switched gears from sort of out enjoying my ride to and thinking about maybe just doing a little bit of a fun recreational ride after I get my prescription, to now I'm like, no, we're in safety mode. Go get this prescription. And literally my mentality is get the bike off the road as soon as possible. It's anytime I start seeing precipitation, it's get the bike off the road as soon as possible. And in my mind, there was a real sense of like, part of the reason you're being safe is because the same way a lot of people feel like they have to get home safely to their families, right? You hear this all the time with police or firefighters or people who are first responders, where their job involves them being in medical personnel, like their job involves them being in dangerous situations. Like they'll always talk to you about how, you know, they have to keep in the forefront of their mind at all times that their number one responsibility is to get home safely to their family, right? And I had that same feeling in mind, right? But again, I live in an empty box with a dog waiting for me. So for me, it's like, get home safely to the fam. Like you're trying to do a stream today. Like you're trying to get back to and play video games and gather later. So you can't fuck around and do something dangerous on this bike right now. Like you need to get this bike off the road so you can get home safely to the fam. It could really be like that if you feel that way about the people you interact with online.
Sometimes anonymity is really when the walls come down. Studies have borne out the value of engaging with new and existing digital friendships, though their findings are mixed as to how much they can supplement in-person relationships. A 2016 study found that for young people, online interactions with friends are equally as potent in buffering against emotional distress. Concurring studies of adults, especially those middle-aged and older, have concluded that online interactions with friends protect against loneliness, offer companionship, and are associated with higher psychosocial satisfaction. One 2004 study even found that once online friendships last for more than a year, their quality becomes comparable to offline friendships. Furthermore, online friendship may be particularly potent in this moment, when we have what sociologists are calling a friendship crisis, where most American adults have only one or two close friends, which we talk about in a recent video. My two close friends are named Bear and Philip. If you too have two close adult friends, feel free to just name them in the comments. Say, you know, let's appreciate them. Let's shout out our friends. Maybe they'll see it and they'll be like, oh, that's really nice. Or they'll see it and be like, oh, I don't consider you one of my best friends. And now that we have a bit more context, let's look at the...
Okay, that is so funny. But yeah, I mean, I've been there, right? And that is why, you know, online relationships have been such a big support for me, and you know why I've like always needed those relationships. But yeah, I love that. You don't, you know, because you don't need to have like a ton of friends to have the support system you need. But what I'm gonna do real quick. I don't like to do this too much. Oh man. Let me see what we got here. The good Dr. Grant. This is my man Nkrumah Grant, Dr. Nkrumah Grant, man. This is like my good close friend. If I have one close friend that's definitely always trying to keep up with me is Dr. Grant. And I don't like showing them off because I'm supposed to be, you know, like I got a thing, you know what I'm saying? I got a thing, and whatever my thing is, and Nkrumah always just be out doing my thing. So I can't give him too much limelight on the channel. You know what I'm talking about? But he's like a superhero in the gym. He's like just chiseled and crazy, ridiculously strong. Trying to keep up with Nkrumah in the gym is fucking torture. But he's an incredibly successful young scientist. We got our PhDs in the same lab. He's incredibly well published. He just but I have to keep him away from people. He's just, because then people start asking me, what about it? How's Nkrumah doing? What's Nkrumah up to? We gonna hang out with Nkrumah. Look, I gotta get my shine. This is my community, dog. You can't look. What you talking about? No, I don't. What you talking about? See if you never saw him, you would just assume I was the most impressive black dude in the lab. See how it's all fucked up now. It's all fucked up now. And actually, y'all see me do streams with Cliff. Believe it or not, Cliff's been one of my colleagues for a long time, and I really like Cliff, and we spend a lot of the time together. I wouldn't say we're like best friends or anything like that, because I don't think he'd say it about me, but we are definitely friends, and he's been a really good friend to me, and we enjoy our time together. Cliff and I used to get lunch a lot. We've actually been colleagues we worked together closely for a long time. Then we both kind of went our own ways and had to take care of what we had to do, and now we're back to working closely together. So, but y'all see what I'm talking about? Like, most of the people I would even consider decently close friends are people I work with, right? And so you normally want to have strong friendships outside of that. And for me, I really don't. I really don't. But it's all good. Let's keep this rolling.
Interaction between online friendships and in-ification. Because while you probably aren't worried about Facebook, Dr. O sees it as an inevitable process in what Nick Siernick calls platform capitalism, i.e. an economy where the largest companies are all platforms socializing, advertising, shopping,
not quite as sexy.
The thing is, we've come to accept platform capitalism in many areas of our lives. Most of us may never own a movie or TV show or album again. The economics of streaming might simply make more sense. But social media has different stakes, because increasingly we no longer have autonomy over our social lives and our friendships, which are increasingly online. That's why the shift from social networking based around connections to social media based around circulation of content has made it harder for online communities to feel cohesive. As Bogost writes, the whole idea of social networks was networking, building or deepening relationships, mostly with people you knew. How and why that deepening happened was largely left to the users to decide. But for platforms, of course, deeper relationships aren't as profitable as advertising-friendly content. In the early 2000s, there was a popular belief or Instagram, and it loves me back. Yeah, me neither. Receiving more mental health support online than from families, schools, and professional healthcare settings. And this was especially true for queer youth. As youth culture and technology expert Dana Boyd notes, friending someone on social media is akin to community building and can help facilitate conversations that might be harder to have in the meat world, especially for marginalized groups. Byron writes that for many, the social burdens of being part of a marginalized group are tempered through a sense of solidarity and shared struggle. This solidarity has been generative of identities, political strategies, and social policy reform. Such solidarities are as intimate as they are political. While online relationships are often dismissed as less meaningful because someone might be lying or misrepresenting themselves, scholar Nancy Bain notes that the paucity or lack of personal and social identity cues can also make people feel safer and thus create an environment in which they are more honest. Yeah, I don't know about you, I feel like I probably lie more in life and am more honest online. And there was a discussion in my family. This is a real thing, guys. There was a discussion in my family about how I was being too honest and reckless on Twitter. And to that I say, don't follow me. That is to say, sometimes anonymity is really when the walls come down. Studies have borne out the value of engaging with new and existing digital friendships, though their findings are mixed as to how much they can supplement in-person relationships. A 2016 study found that for young people, online interactions with friends are equally as potent in buffering against emotional distress. Concurring studies of adults, especially those middle-aged and older, have concluded that online interactions with friends protect against loneliness, offer companionship, and are associated with higher psychosocial satisfaction. One 2004 study even found that once online friendships last for more than a year, their quality becomes comparable to offline friendships. Furthermore, online friendship may be particularly potent in this moment, when we have what sociologists are calling a friendship crisis, where most American adults have only one or two close friends, which we talked about in a recent video. My two close friends are named Bear and Philip. If you too have two close adult friends, feel free to just name them in the comments. Say, let's appreciate them. Let's shout out our friends. Maybe they'll see it and they'll be like, oh, that's really nice. Or they'll see it and be like, oh, I don't consider you one of my best friends. And at least you'll know. Now that we have a bit more context, let's look at the interaction between online friendships and infication. Because while you probably aren't worried about Facebook, Dr. O sees it as an inevitable process in what Nick Siernick calls platform capitalism, i.e. an economy where the largest companies are all platforms for socializing, advertising, shopping, etc. The thing is, we've come to accept platform capitalism in many areas of our lives. Most of us may never own a movie or TV show or album.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it, Carrie.
The economics of streaming,
especially if you're
might
on
simply
one device,
make more sense. But social media has different stakes because increasingly we no longer have autonomy over our social lives and our friendships, which are increasingly online. That's why the shift from social networking based around connections to social media based around circulation of content has made it harder for online communities to feel cohesive. As Bogost writes, the whole idea of social networks was networking, building or deepening relationships, mostly with people you knew. How and why that deepening happened was largely left to the users to decide. But for platforms, of course, deeper relationships aren't as profitable as advertising-friendly content. In the early 2000s, there was a popular belief amongst scholars in digital dualism, i.e. the idea that there was a sharp differentiation between online and offline life. But Nathan Jurgensen, sociologist and researcher for Snapchat, argues that this no longer applies, saying what you do online and what you do face-to-face are completely interwoven. And that's what makes infication, which affects every platform, from Amazon to Spotify to Uber to Netflix to Twitch, so catastrophic. Because when Uber gets we have to pay more for a car or take public transit. But when Twitter gets we're either compelled to say goodbye to online friends or just deal with it. As journalist Aya Romano writes for Vox, this has real-world consequences for many communities. She laments Musk's efforts to make Twitter extremely hardcore, which has resulted in chaotic feeds, unreliable service, and again, lots of Nazi going viral. She writes, if Twitter really collapses, whole communities will be uprooted and displaced. Subcultures like fandoms, kink communities, sex workers and educators, and queer and trans spaces rely heavily on the freedom of pseudonymity on Twitter. But that also makes it harder to reunite with all your pseudonymous friends across platforms. Now, it's worth taking a step back to think about the purpose of friendship. For Michel Foucault, friendship was a way of life. As Byron summarizes, a creative practice that carries the potential to generate new forms of intimacy. Because friendships aren't inscribed by institutions like the nuclear family or marriage or office jobs, Byron furthers they offer freedoms and creative potential. Scholar Todd May has even argued that true friendship can undercut neoliberalism by refusing the economic logic that underpins most human relationships under its theory. We already mentioned how the mere existence of online friendships has changed what friendship can offer us. Many people argue that the public-facing nature of a lot of online interaction devalues the supposedly private nature of what friendship is supposed to be. But for Byron, it offers something new. He writes, much support offered on social media is also publicly given and on the record, disrupting notions of friendship as private, dyadic interactions. This signals the need to consider friendship not simply as a relationship, but as practice. One that is witnessed, celebrated, learned from, and adopted among countless digital networks between individuals and among groups. Watching your friends or an activist you admire or a gamer you love interact with friends and communities on social media can help you think about new ways of being, of thinking about yourself and others, of interacting with the world. This creative potential of friendship, what scholar Tom Roach calls the anti-institutional nature of friendship, means that it's a constantly evolving practice. And much of that evolution is taking place online. Foucault wrote that we live in a relational world that institutions have considerably impoverished, but argued that friendship had escaped regulation and surveillance afforded to relationships like those between a parent and child or with a spouse. But in the social media age, the institution of the platform is arguably impoverishing friendship. So friendship has the most subversive potential of any kind of relationship. But our friendships are mostly taking place on private platforms, under the constant interruption of ads, while we're all being mined for data, and the owners are increasingly making these spaces horrible places to be. So what the is gonna happen with our valuable digital relationships? Well, if you were waiting for a solution at the end of this one, we got nothing, so sorry to let you down. We have no idea how to square the circle of platforms that help us make meaningful connections with others while also being focused solely on data extraction and the creation of surplus capital. Maybe some Silicon Valley do-gooder will finally develop the perfect demonetized platform where all of us can socially flourish. Or maybe we'll soon be forced to choose between participating in shitty and toxic platforms or maintaining digital friendships. Now, we're hoping for the do-gooder option, but guys, we're not gonna hold our breath. But what do you all think? Is online friendship over? Or are our bonds strong enough to survive identification? Let us know what you think in the comments. And thanks again to Schedule 35 for sponsoring this video. If you want to know more about what they're doing, go to schedule35.co. Enter the code Wisecrack. If you get anything while you're there, you'll get 15% off. And feel free to DM them or email them to ask any questions you have about Schedule 35, their products, or anything else that they're doing. Thank you so much to all of our patrons for supporting our channel and helping us build a little bit of an alternative community. It means a lot. If you do join our Patreon, you get to be on our Discord server. You get videos early without ads, extra audio and video content, and most importantly,
All right. So I really like that video. Obviously, it sort of reminded me about why we moved to a platform like Gather, and you know the quick and dirty of it for me is that YouTube is one of these platforms that's very limited in its ability to deepen relationships. I do really like YouTube. Obviously, I know we disparage the platform, and that's an in vogue thing to do. But I obviously love it. I think it's a great way to connect with people and build relationships and sort of advertise and let people know that your community is here and hope to grow your audience. But there are real limitations. So first off, I don't see it as a neutral platform. Like, I really feel like it's got a serious right-wing bent to it, just in the way that seemingly everything corporate does. But I do think that hurts leftist content creators and atheists, because I don't think we're supported in the algorithm the way a lot of the shit we're tearing down is. I think the shit that we are ranting and raving about, ironically, makes YouTube a lot of money. So I always struggle with that. Like, what are the chances that this channel or any of the channels that we support really become like the size of Mythvision? Right? But Mythvision is a tiny channel in the grand scheme of things with YouTube and streaming and stuff like that. So it really lays out for you the idea that, you know, only the sort of elite channels in this niche are going to probably ever reach critical mass to, you know, have a significant impact or you know, reach a stage of profitability, whatever you might think is interesting. So it's just a realization that you don't make the type of content that the platform gives a shit about or is gonna do anything to push or encourage. And I think a lot of I also just think YouTube does a lot of shitty things that don't really support content creators. Like it's DMCA practices and all of this type of shit. But what comes to mind when we're talking about the enshittification of different platforms is the quality of the interactions. And, you know, I've done presentations and talks about this, as some of you have seen, but it's basically, you know, it's a performance. It's a show that somebody puts on for an audience, and there never really is equity between performer and audience. Now, certainly YouTube is way more interactive. You can talk to the audience in real time. You can, you know, build that community, all that type of stuff. But if you were really building a community, would you really want to build a community with people you never see and hear? Nah, that'd be pretty fucking weird, right? Like, you know, so the thing I love most about a platform like Gather, why I push it, why I even think it's worth, you know, paying for it to some extent, because Gather has gone through its own process. I don't want to say it's enshittification, but it's a process that will make you realize that it's a business, and they have a business arc, and they're trying to be profitable. So, for instance, when we first joined Gather, I think your spaces were free up to like, maybe when they rolled it out, it was like 50, but I think when we got serious about Gather, it was at least up to like 25, I think. So you could really do a lot with free spaces. And then they capped the free spaces to 10, sort of right as we were consistently hitting that mark. So it left us a real decision, because I didn't like the idea of asking the community to pay for Gather. And it cuts into people's ability to support the channel or the community, right? Because, you know, for instance, if you do a Ko-Fi member, one of the differences between Ko-Fi is like if you send a tip or to Streamlabs, or if you join my Patreon or whatever, you'll be sending money to me. If you become a member through Ko-Fi, which is the main thing we push, most of that money goes to Gather. So, you know, that was a real choice for us, right? But the thing that made it worth it for me was, one, we use it so well, we use it enough, we're like power users. But the interactivity that we get, I love the visuals, the having different virtual spaces, And I've also done research on Gather, right? It's a really, really effective platform because of all those things. It's effective, it's really effective for business teams. It's really effective in educational settings. So there's a method to the madness. But yeah, the main thing was that we always talk about the bar hop, right? The atheist bar scene. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. But YouTube is more like a place, it'd be saying sometimes you want to go to a concert venue where the crowd is always the same. Right? Because that's more what it is. Like you're going to a show, but you go to this place to see a show a lot, and so over time you've gotten you can build community with the other viewers, but only when you're there to see a show together. Whereas Gather is literally like the bar where you go, where everybody's just hanging out, doing whatever you want to do. And one of the huge differences is I always remind people of this. YouTube's a great place to build community, but you got to remember somebody always has to be putting on a show. If y'all get to hang out here for 2 or 3 hours tonight, it's because I had to do a 2 or 3 hour stream, right? If you're hanging out for 90 minutes at Derek's channel, that requires Derek doing a 90-minute show, right? If I get to my desk at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and UC Love and Lena have been hanging out, and Steph or whoever have been hanging out and Gather since 10 o'clock a.m. They potentially been hanging out for 4 hours before I even am on the scene. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same thing like it'll be tonight. The stream will be however long it'll be, but we'll be hanging out and Gather till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So the fact that the community has a place to go where nobody has to be putting on a show, we can all hang out. We do use it as a virtual office, those of us that work from home or work in jobs where we're free to, be on our phones or be on our computers or whatever like that. A lot of times Nitty will be coding, I'll be doing science stuff or teaching stuff. Steph will be making sales. UC Love will be hanging out with the fam and handling domestic responsibilities. Everybody's doing their thing. People are in and out. Sean sometimes will be in the wood shop. So we're getting to talk to each other, getting to see and hear each other, getting to be part of each other's work day. A lot of times getting to see each other's work is super exciting. Getting to review content together, right? Like if I want to review a video on this channel, like say Derek drops a video I'm really excited about on Mythvision, well, I have to make a stream, and then on that stream, I get to give my thoughts about what's going on. And yeah, maybe people will be in the chat, right? But if we're in Gather, everybody's talking, maybe hanging out on camera if they want to. You don't have to. You don't have to talk or have to be on camera. You still have a chat. But, people are doing their own pause the tape, and everybody's free to give their own thoughts. It's much more democratic of a process. So yeah, there's so many benefits that I like of it, but I just want to be clear, like they do that too, right? They're a business, and part of it's funny that he mentioned as part of this process the shift to appealing to business customers. And it's interesting when you think about Gather that way, because it was always built to appeal to business customers. It was built for remote work teams. And in that sense, I'm okay with it, right? That's part of the reason I don't mind paying for it, because it's like I think the fee's nominal when everybody chips in. And I also see us as, I don't want to say a business, but I see our environment as a social environment, but also a professional one. I want the space to be a place that people take seriously as a virtual office that has the tools that you would expect to have in a virtual office, the ability to schedule things, private rooms for teams to work on meetings, collaborative whiteboards, the ability to work on documents together, the ability to host social events, all of those things. For instance, the stuff that you would not be able to do on Discord, that you would maybe be able to do more on like a Microsoft Teams. And so there's kind of an alignment, right? In other words, it hurts a little bit when YouTube, which starts as a social media platform, broadcast yourself, right? YouTube, right? Like you are the tube, right? It's all about you, the user, and fun and people, right? And then when they shift towards serving business clientele, you're like, this sucks, YouTube. Why are you fucking feeding me ads? Why are you interrupting streams with bullshit? Like, why are you taking 30% of what we send to the content creators? That's fucking awful. You know what I mean? Like all that shit's happening. Whereas at least with Gather, you're like, oh yeah, you guys started as a service for businesses, and all right, we buy into that. We're cool with that. but yeah, so that's kind of why I'm with it. I think we use it in the way it's intended to be used. But the biggest thing for me is that it's not a broadcast platform and it's not a social media platform. It isn't about post and then there's comments and replies. It's about real-time interaction. And then of course, like the integration of things like games, like I think that's a huge thing. You know, I think YouTube, think about how rarely you see gaming in our community. Telltale comes to mind, right? He often plays games while he's doing his podcast. And you'll see like the Flavor, they do some gaming streams. I've even seen over on the line, they'll do a game night or whatever. But even that's a stream of them gaming, right? Whereas in Gather, it's like you can play games on your own, or you know, we can play games together. You know, we can play. And there's a lot of games that we've integrated into our Gather. But I think that's huge. That's a big part of team building, is just having fun together. And it gets customized. So if somebody's into a particular game, or makes a suggestion about a game, we integrate it into the space. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I really like about it. It's not perfect, but it is a platform meant to address the limitations of other social media platforms and broadcast platforms. So yeah, I hope you guys do check it out. And and I think it's helped us also establish an identity. I think it's helped us huddle up and think deeply about what's going on in our community and how we want to respond to it, and how we see ourselves and who we want to be. And getting to have those conversations offline where they're not being broadcast, I think has been a huge help. And I think it's pushed us quite a bit to the left, but I think that's fine. Yeah, if you're in Gather, please engage with the group chat. Otherwise, you can feel a bit empty sometimes. Yeah, definitely got to keep the chat open and paying attention to it. People are getting used to it. It's a learning curve. Anything that's new. The tough thing for me that I think is for everybody is just trying it, right? You have to remember there was a time when YouTube was new to you. You didn't know anything about super chats. You probably didn't interact in the comments section or in the live chats. You probably didn't watch the live chats. You probably didn't pay attention to it. Like when you first probably started seeing live chats on your favorite streams, what did you probably do? You probably just ignored it, right? And so we've gone on this learning curve of becoming new to the platform and treating it like an extension of a television to becoming YouTube power users. And you just have to give yourself time to go through that same process with other platforms. All right, gang, it is time to jump into the main event of the evening. And now that Pride Month is over, I'm sure the assault on the LGBTQ community, especially the trans community, is not. And one thing I realized I did not do during Pride Month, and a lot of it was just because of the move and the way my personal schedule has been so fucking hectic, is we never really sat down and talked about what the fuck is going on. Like, where did all this come from, and you know, why are we dealing with this? And sorry, Leisha Miller made a great video. Well, she makes great videos, and she made a video about why are conservatives so obsessed with trans kids. I assume it's going to be a great one. And you know, I think it's sort of the topic of the moment that needs to be addressed. And I was like, all right, if we're gonna put a bow on Pride Month and be prepared for you know, the reality of what's happening, and I'm thinking of Lena's comment of fuck it, let's just make every month Pride Month. I honestly think we pretty much are gonna have to, because every month is gonna be anti-Pride Month. I think that's why Pride had a certain resonance this year, right? It's because every week, every month, there's been some new marginalization effort against the LGBT community, especially the trans community. And so, in a sense, let's not say, okay, Pride Month was here, we did Pride Month, all right, now let's take down the rainbow flags, and you know, all right, the marches are over, let's get back to business as usual, because this attack won't stop, and the effort to erase trans people is business as usual. And that is going to continue every day, every week, and every month. So I know there will be a certain dialing down of these discussions, and I think that that's appropriate as community gets kind of worn out. But y'all know we're going to stay on guard in our community. So let's go ahead and jump into this.
Relating to health care, access to bathrooms, even drag performances have already been tabled this year in state legislatures.
Senate Bill 15 would ban transgender
Hey,
athletes
Native.
from competing in
Good to
sports
see
at
you.
the youth level.
It's the bill banning transgender transitioning for children.
House Republicans have now passed a bill that would ban transgender girls from competing in female athletics.
There's only two genders, male and female. Trust the science.
Tonight, a ban on transgender athletes in college sports is poised to become law.
A full-on attack on the rights of people in the community.
Outright banning gender-affirming care for transgender minors.
The bills spread misinformation.
The bill says transgender females cannot participate in sports that correspond with their gender identity.
The Kentucky General Assembly passing a sweeping anti-trans bill.
Kentucky GOP lawmakers succeed in getting anti-trans legislation to the governor's desk.
This is not good government.
Nearly 500 anti-trans bills.
Now, let me just say that the last few days, the anti-affirmative action decision, kick in the gut. Oh, we're not going to allow Biden to approve his student loan forgiveness program, kick in the nuts. I don't want to undermine, as an educator, I don't want to undermine the importance of educational access, because, I don't know, that's kind of my gig, you know? But what this community is going through, like I said, on a damn near daily basis, is like that every fucking day, every week. Literally, y'all, the shit we're going through has put a new meaning to the weekends for me. I didn't give a shit about weekends, y'all. I work from fucking home, y'all. The weekend is the same as every fucking other day, 90% of the time. Most of the time, I just would work through the weekend just because it's 2 extra days you could get shit done. But now, Saturday and Sunday are such a 2 days to look forward to, because they're 2 days we know we can't get fucked over by the government. We know them motherfuckers take Saturday off and they take Sunday off. So if they don't fucking slam our dicks in the door on Friday, we don't have to worry about them slamming our dicks in the door until Monday fucking morning. And so the legislative assault, y'all, is just crazy. And while we talk about this, I want to put a little, y'all know me, I'm always trying to put our heads in the vice. Reason being is because we can only influence the people we can influence. We can only change how we approach things. So we gotta mind our own shop. And I think the left has a role to play here, and it's a big part of it. And it's all about moving the Overton window to the right. And the way I think about it, and it's good to touch on it, you know, as she laid out sort of the legislative efforts and what we're going to be addressing here. It's kind of like when you're on the left or you're moderate or you're progressive or whatever, and you don't pay attention to shit that much. And then also you don't think shit necessarily affects you. Although if you think that about LGBTQ issues, you just have a weird, very restrictive definition about what it means for something to affect you. But what I think happens a lot is because people are supposed to be moderate, and plus people fall into the both sides, they let the right-wing agenda establish the... So what do I mean? If you're on the right, you might just be straight up against the trans agenda, trying to end the woke ideology and stop them from transing the kids, and you're an asshole. But then if you're on the left, rather than being like, all trans people need to be able to participate in sports because this is fucking America and people play sports, asshole. Or all people need access to fucking medical care according to what's best for them, according to their professional care network and maybe their guardians. So go fuck yourselves. We're going to have trans kids are gonna be trans kids, and that if that means transitioning as a kid, then it fucking means transitioning as a kid. Go mind your fucking business. Instead, what the left will do is be like, well, I'm not against trans, or I'm pro LGBTQ, but they are making a good point about if, you know, you were assigned male at birth and then, you know, you're participating in girls' sports, you know, you might have a huge advantage. So, you know, I do see where they're coming from. Maybe there's an issue with, trans girls and boys in girls' sports or whatever, right? Because you're just treating them like they're boys. And or you'll be like, I'm pro LGBTQ, but those hormones and those chemicals and those surgeries, we're talking about very serious medical interventions. So I just don't think you should maybe do all that to a kid. And I'm for waiting till you're an adult to make those decisions for yourself, right? And what they're like not hearing is how they're allowing right-wing bigotry to set the political agenda, and then they're unnecessarily conceding to them because, again, a lot of times they're thinking it doesn't affect them, and they think that makes them sound more reasonable. Like they're more reasonable if they they find where the other side is making a good point and then can concede that. Now we can make a compromise and we don't have to be so divided, right? Because the divisiveness and the polarization has been, they're convinced that those are the real fucking problems. Like denying children health care isn't the problem. Political polarization is the fucking problem. Discriminating against children and not letting them play sports is not the fucking problem. Us being too divided and needing to listen to each other and make America purple again is the fucking problem. So we are going to be targeting the right-wing obsession, but let's keep in mind the ways in which the left or the progressives or whatever the fuck you want to call it aren't helping either, because we're conceding a lot of these issues when we absolutely should not be. And I have, you know, been sensitive in hearing of some of those arguments in my past. So it's no shame, but I've grown and made progress. And I think if you thought that way in the past yourself, cool. But let's get this right. And I think the right attitude is when somebody says medical, your brain and most importantly, your mouth just shuts the fuck down. As soon as we talk about, well, trans kids need medical, what? Sorry, as soon as you said medical, my brain shut down because it's none of my fucking business. Okay? And when it comes to sports, everybody plays sports as the fucking gender they identify. Period, end of story. And I don't have children, but don't give me the fucking hypothetical, sports pathetical. I do not care. Let's play that fucking game out, okay? I have a girl. She's wonderful. She loves track. She's the fucking fastest girl. She's Sonic S, the motherfucking hedgehog, okay? And she gets it all the way to the state championship, and then she comes in second because a trans girl beat her across the finish line. I'm like, baby girl, you are all types of special, and I really think you need to stick with this because I see a fucking college scholarship in your future. But right now, baby girl, you came in second today. You're going to walk over to that girl. You're going to shake her hand. You're going to tell her that was a hell of a race. Then you are going to get up on that stage and you're going to accept that fucking silver fucking medal. And we're going to fucking get some ice cream at Friendly's up in this bitch. Let's go. That's it. That's it. What? There's nothing else to talk about. Everybody needs to play. Don't get me started, y'all. Y'all know Stephanie Helms is a fucking athlete of the highest level fucking in sailing. You know fucking Uncle Bobby is a fucking 27th degree black belt at Kaja Kenpo and like 13 other fucking martial arts. And I used to be very serious about basketball, worked at basketball camps, coach. It's a huge part of my life. So I'm stop. People know how important sports is to fucking youth. Everybody plays sports. Period. End of fucking story.
Bills have been introduced in states across the country this year alone. They target everything from books and drag shows to gender-affirming care, access to bathrooms, and even just speaking about the existence of trans people in schools. The issue of trans rights, which affects less than 1% of the US population, has become the central rallying cry for Republicans. Through concerted, strategic efforts to use trans rights as a wedge issue, conservatives have fear-mongered their base into a frenzy in an attempt to win votes and win elections, all at the expense of the health and physical safety of a tiny group of marginalized people, mostly children, just trying to live their lives. These anti-trans bills are not about protecting children. They're not about fairness in sports. They're not about safety in public restrooms from potential groomers. What they're really about is a vocal, radical minority weaponizing fear and disinformation among the electorate to win votes, gain social media followers, and increase their political and social power. And this has been going on for decades, uniting the religious right to conspiracy theorists and white power extremists, and igniting widespread fear based on threats that do not exist. This is why conservatives are so obsessed with trans kids. Roll the intro.
I'm also just going to throw in a quick shout out for bigotry. We're breaking down the how of the bigotry, but if you need a takeaway from this talk, gang, it's fucking bigotry. The number one reason we're having this fucking discussion is bigotry. Now, two things I want to say. I want to address a couple of groups. Let's first address the political people who support this anti-trans politicians and the legislation and the blase and the glavinoids. Y'all are fucking assholes. And you're bigots. I do not care about economic policy, foreign policy, fucking none of the policies. When these people get up in public, say into a microphone with cameras watching, that their priority is to end the trans ideology, they have just told you, amongst my top priorities, often my number one priority is fucking bigotry. Meaning, if you support that person, you're a fucking bigot. I do not care what items 10 through 95 are on that person's fucking agenda. The fact that they are a bigot should be immediately disqualifying from their ever participating as an elected official, period, end of story. Any other thing makes you an asshole. Number two, we're going to address the religiously committed to this ideology. And the same thing goes for you. You are bigots as well, period, end of story. The truth is the fact that your religion, be it the fucking Muslims, the Jews, the Christians, whoever, but I'm especially talking to you Christians in America, as soon as you realized how bigoted your religion is, either what it expressly says in its Bible or by way of practice of the people of faith, you should have left the faith. And you should leave the faith. That should be all it takes. I'm honestly, when it comes to this shit, gang, the truth is we shouldn't have to be sitting around talking about the moral argument and the axiology and the ontology and what about the age of the earth and did Jesus really die for sin? But what is your Christology? But what about the theodicy of well, is it borrowed from other ancient Near Eastern texts? But what I should not have to say anything to you other than Christians are bigoted against the queer community. Oh, did you say? No, Christians. Let me look into this. For man to lie with man is an abomination. Surely they shall be put to. Oh, that's all types of fucked up. Well, what are Christians saying about this online? They're saying we can't support the homosexual agenda. They're talking about trans ideology. Yeah. See, the last day I was a Christian was fucking yesterday. Again, bigotry against the queer people should be reason enough alone to leave your faith. The fact that it is not makes you a shitty person. It makes you a horrible person. Literally, you're the type of person, you are ignoring bigotry. Why? Because you're selfish as fuck. Because you don't care about anything other than what your God will do for you. So you will ignore how hateful your God is willing to be against people that are different. And you're ignoring all the fucked up shit people in your fucking group are doing in the name of said God. You're an asshole. Now, fortunately, we are a community of people who were similarly asshole flavored. We used to be the same type of assholes that overlooked that stuff. And we're like, yes, Jesus, in the name of Jesus, in the name of Jesus, we have the victory. Okay, but we grew the fuck up because growing up is part of growing up, and now it's your turn.
Warby Parker. I think the thing that I get most compliments on are my glasses. I switch back and forth between these tortoise shell frames and these gold boys, and I actually have these gold boys in 2 different styles, one for reading and one for distance, because I can't be stopped, okay? I've been getting glasses at Warby Parker for years, okay? Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses, okay? They also have options like blue light filtering lenses. That's what I always get, because you guys, we stare at screens
Yeah, I draw
so
the
much
line at
throughout the
puberty
day,
blockers.
and I've noticed fewer headaches from switching to the blue light filtering
Ridiculous.
glasses. Glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses, and you can try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. You order 5 pairs of glasses to try on at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy. The try-on glasses ship free and include a prepaid return shipping label. You can try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free by going to warbyparker.com/Legia. Now, I'm always looking to freshen up my eyewear, so I got myself a home try-on kit, and I'm kind of looking for something a little bit more masculine today, so let's see. I've been looking into a lot of black frames lately, so we have a couple options. We've got this one, or we've got this pair. This pair I feel like makes me look like a scientist. What do you think? Okay, then I have another kind of simple but little nerdy pair of glasses.
Okay.
Like if I were like a librarian or a professor, this might be the vibe.
Let's go on with the
or
jewelry.
these guys, which are kind of like retro and fun. I really like these.
Yes,
What do
those
you
are the
think?
Department
And
of
now you can
Engineering
save
special.
15% when you buy 2 or more pairs of glasses or sunglasses today. And if
Why
you
are we
prefer
sitting
shopping
here listening to
IRL, Warby Parker has
capitalism, gang? It must be the
190
weekend.
retail locations
We're
throughout
just
the
sitting here
US that you can
casually
visit.
watching
Go to
commercials and shit.
warbyparker.com/Legia to order
Really?
your home try-on kit
Really?
for free
We're
today.
just-
Thanks,
we're
Warby
just letting
Parker.
the
It's
gang, I'm
impossible
letting
to talk about the
capitalism roll.
anti-trans
I don't give a-
movement coming to
You'll
fruition in
survive.
the Republican
You've
Party without also
survived
talking about
commercials
homophobia, anti-feminism,
Here we
and
go.
racism at the
Boom.
same time. The issues are interconnected in our history, and the current flurry of anti-trans bills is simply a culmination of the perfect storm of many disparate movements coming together at the same time. But this has been a long time coming.
Jesus loves me. Anita Bryant was once known as an orange juice saleswoman. Not anymore. With a religious fervor that has made her America's most controversial woman overnight, she has been selling her Save Our Children group. Her group is crusading to repeal a new Dade County law which protects homosexuals in jobs and housing. Anita Bryant began her fight at her church, where the congregation believes the new law will force them to hire homosexual teachers.
Anita Bryant was a singer who had a handful of pop hits in the 60s and toured with Bob Hope, performing holiday shows for troops overseas. She sang at the White House numerous times, and she was the spokeswoman for the Florida Citrus Commission, appearing in commercials for orange juice. She was also a born-again evangelical Christian on a mission to restore good Christian American values in the United States. In 1977, in Dade County, Florida, of all places, the Dade County Commission approved a law that would outlaw discrimination based on sexual orientation in employment, housing, and public services. News of the ordinance spread quickly, especially among the Dade County evangelical churches, of which then 36-year-old Anita Bryant was a member. Specifically, apparently, a police sergeant came and made a presentation to the church members about the dangers of homosexuality and showed them gay and child porn to, I guess, expose the wicked ways of homosexuals. At this point, the idea that gay men were predators to young boys was already a tale as old as time, but it hadn't gotten a national platform. Not yet, anyway. Anita Bryant was understandably horrified because she hadn't ever met an out gay person, nor did she know anything about the gay community, and she had 4 children in schools and was particularly concerned about the gays infiltrating the schools as teachers. If this sounds familiar to the video I made recently about communism and the fear people had that communists could be infiltrating every nook and cranny of society, including, God forbid, your children's schools, that's because it's the same tactic, different decade. Especially once you hit the 80s and the fear that your child could be infected with AIDS, yeah, things got bad. When you have an entire electorate who hasn't knowingly come into contact with the marginalized group of people that are being regulated, it's easy to spread whatever kind of misinformation you want. Anyway, so Anita's horrified, and she decides she has to stop this anti-discrimination bill from passing. Her and a group of churchgoers form a coalition called Save Our Children, and everyone votes in Anita as president. Their goal? Get 10,000 signatures on a petition to have a county-wide referendum on whether to keep the anti-discrimination ordinance. The group campaigned extensively, including showing people homosexual pamphlets and claiming that they were being distributed in grade schools to recruit kids to the gay agenda. They weren't, with Anita at the helm at one point holding a press conference to say that Dade County homosexuals are
Gang, the math is simple. Someone who is willing to die for Jesus is willing to lie for Jesus. I suggest you always keep that in mind.
Are trying to recruit our children to homosexuality. A statement based on zero facts or evidence, but that was enough to foment fear in the local population, and the group managed to get 64,000 signatures and bring the referendum to a vote. The results were overwhelming. It was the largest turnout in any special election in the history of Dade County, and voters supported repealing the anti-discrimination ordinance by a margin of more than 2-1. Based on the resounding success, Anita continued the mission of Save Our Children on a national scale, making it the first national anti-gay group, and began traveling around the country advocating for people to repeal gay rights laws and think of the children. At one point at a press conference in Iowa, a gay rights activist threw a pie in her face in protest, so she prayed for him. Through all of this, she genuinely...
One of the best moments ever. And again, that pray for your enemies bullshit, that's just, that's literally just Christians trying to exert their fucking social dominance. Beautiful. She deserves so many more pies in the face. Christians, you're just bigoted. And gang, I hate to say this, but like bigotry is at the heart of Christianity. It's at the heart of any idea. And I don't give a fuck what type of Christian you are, whether heaven is literal or hell is literal, or you just get to be in any religion that says there are people who deserve to live forever. I'm definitely one of them. And people who don't believe like me, yeah, they fuck them. You know, they just get to fucking vanish right out of existence. You're fucked up. You're fucked up. Your whole motivation is to be part of the chosen, selected, special group. We have to start to recognize this. Again, we've got to stop having these stupid ass discussions about the philosophical whatevers, the historical non-significance. Y'all know none of that shit matters. It has nothing to do with why people become Christians, and it's just. Don't get me wrong. They're fun conversations to have once in a blue, but y'all know that's not the meat and potatoes. Look, people are Christians because of all of the ways in which they are made to feel good about being Christians. If we want people to stop being Christians, we need to make them feel bad about being Christians. I don't make no bones about it. I think it's about breaking the vicious feedback loop that keeps them addicted to Jesus. And yes, I'm fucking riffing and monologuing while we've got the pause on the pie in the face so we could enjoy that for just a moment longer. Come on now, gang. That's fucking production quality up in this bitch. Let's roll.
Thought she was doing the Lord's work, and she repeatedly said that she didn't do this out of hate or homophobia. She did it out of love for the homosexuals. Anita, this ain't love, girl. What happened to you to make you think that? Why do you believe in a God who would show love in that way? Anyway, even in the 70s, a lot of people were like, this woman is nuts. She was the butt of jokes nationwide, including by former tour partner Bob Hope. Exactly. And by 1980, she was completely out of work in showbiz, having lost her brand partnerships because of her anti-gay work. She had divorced her husband in 1979, for which she received extreme backlash from the church. After seeing what it was like to be on the receiving end of evangelical hatred, her views on the gays conveniently softened a bit. At one point she said, the church needs to be more loving, unconditionally, and willing to see these people as human beings, to minister to them and to try to understand.
Yes, and a lot of y'all have been seeing this same type of turn, if you will, in one Rebecca Fuckface Davis. And I just want to be clear that I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. Listen, y'all already know, hang the asterisks. When the queer fam tells me, hey, Jay, we need Christians who are not trying to drop big bricks on our heads from tall buildings. And all these progressive, soft-ass Jesus lovers, you know, they bake us cookies. And, you know, they invite us to church functions. We're not fucking going to those church functions, but they fucking invite us, you know? And I'm like, good. I'm happy, and I'm gonna hold the line. I am not going to do anything that I feel discourages these people from treating you more humanely. But I'm not here for the whitewashing of the church reputation. I'm not here to be gaslit about history. And I'm not here to pretend that somehow what the LGBT fam needs is fucking Christianity in any way, shape, or form. Real accountability means accepting that you're not right for certain people. I hate to say that. Like some of y'all know that what I'm talking about. You're like me. You fucked up in a relationship, whatever it might be. Maybe you're closer to me where you've pretty much mostly fucked up in all your relationships. but look, right? You know that part of that journey is you're gonna do better the next time, right? And by better the next time, it means you're gonna fuck up something different, right? But you're not gonna get the chance to go back in time, right, and undo whatever fucked up thing you did. And let's face it, sometimes you're better off this way. Like that person that left you because you forgot that they don't drink skim milk, and you stopped at the store and you brought home whole milk, and they only drink 2%, and they said it's over. You don't need them, all right? But seriously, I just real accountability. Sorry, somebody's been shooting off fireworks constantly around this fucking neighborhood. I'm about to call the cops. Y'all know me. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old. I'm like, look, I can't look. They're making too much noise in my neighborhood. All right. I'm not with. Where do I live? Stop asking. Why are you asking questions about me? I'm not the one shooting off fireworks. Oh man. But I just the real truth is, like, we're having this conversation because of how Christians have mistreated this community. And yeah, sure, Christians, you need to see them as human beings and stop being bigots, but you also have to understand now we don't fuck with y'all as a result of this. Like your religion has been tested and it has failed a lot of tests. And y'all could do your own thing, but I'm not sending people to you. And the fucked up part is what these Christians don't seem to realize, because to me they're just as selfish, is they don't realize that their organization is fucked up. And so instead, because they still want to reap the benefits, right? They still want to be special. They still want to be chosen. They still want to be blessed. They still want to be highly favored. They still want to be, part of the elect that gets to live forever and all this other bullshit. It's their desire to hang on to all that bullshit that says, oh, well, let's be gay friendly so I can hang on to my fucking nonsense. And then what they really want to do is ignore the active conflict. And that's the part I can't get with, right? Like, there may come a time when Christianity has shifted so much that by and large, the majority of Christian denominations are queer affirming and have queer leadership and all of that. To me, that would suck, because that would mean we failed to just kill it off and get rid of it, because it's not fucking true and it's bullshit. But we're not there. And so to me, this is like waking up, realizing you're part of a group that's been abusive to people, going to those people and being like, yeah, I'm sorry that, I was part of this group that was whooping your ass. And then rather than saying, yeah, that group is pretty fucked up, I don't hang out with them anymore. Or at least just, I understand why you feel harmed by that group and why you don't want anything to do with us, they're still trying to convince you to come participate in the group. And they know, without a doubt now, they 100% know and recognize that that group is treating you in a fucked up fashion. Can y'all see what I'm saying? It is literally like coming up to black people and being like, I'm sorry, racism is all fucked up and we shouldn't be racist. But I'm trying to tell them that they should be less racist. Now, will you come to the next KKK meeting so you can help me convince them to be less racist? Like, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, interesting, Anita. Why is it always conservatives who are incapable of empathy unless it is literally happening to them? Anita's still alive.
Exactly.
She's 83 and lives in Oklahoma. And in a twist of karmic irony, Anita's granddaughter, Sarah Green, came out publicly on a Slate podcast in 2021 by announcing her impending nuptials to a woman. Boo. The national scale of Anita's campaign in the 70s was a galvanizing force that some historians point to as the beginning of the culture wars. Prior to the founding of Save Our Children, the religious right really didn't have a strong foothold in American politics. Reverend Jerry Falwell, then the head of a megachurch in Virginia, took a large role in assisting in the Save Our Children campaign in Dade County, and would go on to found, along with political activist Paul Weyrich, the Moral Majority in 1979, a coalition of fundamentalist religious groups working on a national scale to influence politics. Through widespread voter registration, fundraising, and utilizing the media to inform voters about the cause and their version of the truth, the Moral Majority was able to play a large role in getting Ronald Reagan elected president in 1980, solidifying the religious right's outsized role in politics and presidential elections that persists today. Since then, the religious right has fixated on social issues like abortion, religious-based education, LGBTQ rights, and parents' rights. These issues form the ideological bedrock of the religious right and turned evangelicals into a fervent and cohesive voting unit.
And gang, back to the alt-right playbook. Because what does this do for the fucking fucked up ass moderates trying to play the middle? Right? They know that this powerful bloc is controlling the fucking game, but they also know that the particular marginalized group in this case is tiny, even by comparison to other minority groups, right? They're like, look, we're used to fucking over black folks in plain sight. I mean, fuck it, what are they, 10, 13% of the 12, 13, 14% of the population on a good day? Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck they gonna do? Right? That's how they treat us. And then they're like, look, we put them mostly in, little urban hot spots or whatever, and then that's how they do us. They like, look, y'all ain't that much of the population. We just put you in little urban centers where we don't really give a fuck about the shit anyway. Then we just get to control all the fucking map without y'all. We good to roll, right? But fuck, man, they like, man, 13% is kind of a lot of people. Like, these motherfuckers still making all this noise about equality and civil rights. Oh my God, there's somebody's fuckheads are still talking about goddamn reparations. Anybody telling me ain't never gonna be goddamn reparations up in this bitch? So it's just, let's just say marginalizing black people can be kind of inconvenient. Right? It's not, I mean, we're not going to stop, right? Don't get crazy. We're not going to stop, but sometimes it's a little inconvenient. Marginalizing the trans community, though, they just looking at the numbers. They're like, kind of like these numbers, This is way easier. This is statistically at least 100 times easier than fucking with black people. You're talking about going from 10% to 0.1%. Like, it's just what I mean, this is orders and orders of magnitude less inconvenient, right? And that's where the fucking moderates come in. Because then they're thinking about the same game. So they're like, yeah. I mean, if we don't let trans girls run track, I mean, how many girls in the state is that really gonna affect? don't give a fuck about girls' sports. Then don't say that out loud. Just we're here. We're here because the young girls. Listen, young girls need to write to, what do they call that shit? Intramural competition and what's extracurricular activities that we're trying to create a safe space for them. Right? They just get on the bullshit, gang. But the point I'm trying to make is, the left is making the same fucking calculation. The same fucking calculation that the right wingers are fucking using to set their GPS of their fucking bus to trans people. Like, we are headed out to the trans community because we're gonna roll right through that shit. Is the same calculation the fucking liberals make when they toss them motherfuckers under that bus. They're like, they doing the same math, y'all.
Became so powerful despite its small size in relation to the US population because of how fervently they show up at the polls. In his book, The Next Conservatism, Paul Weyrich, the co-founder of The Moral Majority, wrote that the goal was to weed out cultural Marxism and restore a non-ideological American republic, which is what we had until the wretched 1960s. You know, that decade where civil rights were won for millions of Americans. At the same time, throughout the 1980s,
and this is where I have to just throw in a huge go fuck yourselves, sit on it and rotate to all of those people who call themselves moderate, intelligent, whatever, the blase and the flavonoids, and then turn around and don't vote. Please go fuck yourselves. Can you please tell me what the fuck you think is going to happen to me if a good percentage of the people who, I don't know, at least think that I'm a human being and like should have access to say like education, food, and maybe decent employment. If a good portion of them are like, I'm gonna sit home and drink beer and watch ESPN on election day, when all the people that would gladly hang my fucking ass up in the middle of town square, kick back and knock out a few cold ones, vote early, often. They're literally trying to change the law so that their companies can vote, so they could all start businesses and fucking vote twice. So please do the math as you and people you're trying to convince to be more like you stay the fuck home on election day, and the people who want to put the noose around my neck vote twice. Please tell me how that math is going to work out for me. And that is why the message is, please go fuck yourself if you don't vote. It just is. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear it. Figure it out. Most of you fucking, do you know that you can vote absentee for no reason whatsoever? You could get yourself put on a permanent fucking absentee list for no reason at all. They will send the ballot to your house. You will scroll through your phone and say, who do I vote for in my state that won't kill everybody? It will give you a list. You check off the names on that fucking list, stuff it in the envelope that they will include in their envelope with the postage that you don't even have to pay for because it's already fucking paid for by the people that fucking send it to you. And then you don't even have to leave your house to put it back in the fucking mailbox for the man to take it in and count your fucking vote. So if you don't vote, please go fuck yourself.
Anti-gay fear-mongering reached a fever pitch, with religious right groups like the Moral Majority calling AIDS the gay plague and calling it God's will, while tens of thousands of people died from the disease. Throughout the 80s, a man named Paul Cameron, a former psychology instructor at the University of Nebraska, was publishing pseudo-scientific pamphlets proving that gay people commit more serial murders, molest more children, and intentionally spread diseases. Despite being expelled from the American Psychological Association in 1983 for ethics violations, Cameron continued to produce bogus studies widely cited by anti-gay groups. Since then, however, as the United States has grown more diverse and more progressive, the bedrock foundation of the religious right has been slowly chipped away. First, it was anti-sodomy laws aimed at making gay sex illegal. Those were officially done away with in the 2003 Supreme Court case Lawrence v. Texas, which was a galvanizing force that became obsolete with the Supreme Court's Obergefell ruling in 2015, legalizing gay marriage nationwide. And while there are still evangelicals who are mad about the gay marriage thing, the vast majority of Americans are in favor of allowing the gays to wed. It no longer has the ability to whip the electorate into a fearmongered frenzy like it once did. But the religious right still had one thing. They still had abortion. Pictures of tiny fetuses, heartbeats, and fingernails in the womb. These ideas still created a fervor in the religious right, enough to get them to show up to the polls at far greater numbers than any other voting bloc. And thanks to the tireless work of the religious right since the 1970s, inserting religion into politics and requiring pretty much any Republican who wants to be president to appeal to the religious right since Reagan onward, they finally got the person they had always dreamed of in the White House. Donald Trump. An orange muppet who would say and do whatever it takes with impunity to gain more followers and power. He rallied the religious right, and he put in the judges necessary to make real legal change in this country. And he paved the way for Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health to make its way to the Supreme Court, giving them, many of them being recently appointed by Trump, another chance to finally do away with abortion protections across the country. A real victory for the religious right, who are dead set on protecting fetuses, but fuck parents and fuck kids once they're out of the womb, especially if they're black or brown. But then the religious right ran into a pesky little problem. All of their traditional wedge issues, abortion, gay marriage, gay sex, they'd all been done away with, either solved in the case of abortion or no longer the galvanizing force that brings people to the polls like they once were. And so the religious right had to change course, and quickly. Back in 2016, after the gays were allowed to wed, the religious right was like, what new thing about the gays could we get people whipped up into a voting frenzy about? Well, we've kind of exhausted our options with the L and the G. The B, I don't know, do bisexuals even really exist? They're also sometimes hetero, so like probably fine. And then what's the next letter? Oh yeah, T. Wow, now T is an interesting option. There'd been some national headlines in recent years that had brought trans rights to the forefront in a way that had never happened before. Laverne Cox played a main character role in Orange is the New Black starting in 2013, becoming the first openly trans person to be nominated for an Emmy in an acting category, and later the first to win the award. Chelsea Manning's leak of sensitive documents and transition while going through the legal process made national and international news, and her sentence was commuted by President Obama in 2016. In April 2015, Caitlyn Jenner came out publicly as a trans woman, appearing in a 2020 segment and on the cover of Vanity Fair magazine as the first out trans woman to appear on the cover. So trans visibility was having a moment, and as with any progress, there was, of course, some backlash. But it took the conservatives a bit of time to get it right. They started with bathroom bills. In 2016, again, the main motive to get them to the polls is fear. So they thought, hey, what if we told people that trans women were really just men in disguise as women so they can go into women's bathrooms and attack you? Yeah, that'll get them riled up. In 2016, North Carolina legislators voted to bar transgender people from using the bathroom that didn't correspond with their assigned gender at birth. The backlash was swift and harsh from corporations, sports teams, and even Bruce Springsteen, so that lawmakers eventually rescinded the bill. Because bathroom bills are dumb, y'all. Men who want to attack and assault women aren't going to be dissuaded by a law that says you can't enter a woman's bathroom. Like, I'll rape and murder, but going into the wrong bathroom, that's where I draw the line. And people kind of knew that. And the issue, while popular with the fear-mongering Fox News crowd, really didn't get people riled up in the way that conservatives knew needed to happen.
Also, gang, I think I speak for most people who should use the men's room, that the idea of being found in the wrong bathroom is terrifying. So I'll tell you guys a story real quick. Sorry if you've heard it before, but when I was doing my master's at Penn State in the anthropology department, the bathrooms alternated like every other floor. They looked very similar, but they and one time I went to the restroom and I forgot to change floors, and I like walked by somebody on the way out, and they made note of it, and it was a thing, and it was just humiliating. Like, it was mostly like just a funny story circulating the department, but you know, of course, you have to kind of admit to it so that nobody's worried, right, that there's a strange person in the building or whatever. It's kind of so yeah. These laws are stupid, y'all, but yeah, like it's just nobody wants to be in that situation. It's fucking weird.
for them
Very
to turn out in
uncomfortable situation to
droves
find
and
yourself
vote.
in.
So, advocacy groups began polling to determine whether curbing transgender rights had resonance with voters, and if so, how to best talk about the issue. Because again, this has never been about protecting children or about Christian morals. It's always been about power, getting elected and staying elected. And polling found that, in particular, voters were significantly more likely to support a Republican candidate who favored a ban on transgender girls participating in school sports than on transgender people using bathrooms, especially if the issue was framed as a question of whether to allow men and boys to compete against women and girls. It's common knowledge in political polling and analysis that the form of a question matters, and that in order to get unbiased results, you need to frame the question in a way that doesn't lead the pollee to a certain outcome or conclusion. However, the opposite can also be weaponized by politicians. So instead of asking, should trans girls compete on girls' sports teams, which is almost obvious in its outcome, trans girls sports team makes sense. Instead, they frame it as, should boys compete against girls? The insinuation being that trans girls are really just boys in disguise. And the obvious answer to conservatives with strict ideals of the gender binary is no.
And this is a point that the lovely Stephanie Helms just makes all the time. Just pay attention to how they frame the issue. It's always about trans women or trans girls, which is fucked up ass, just straight up misogyny. And the narrative is you can't have trans women in women's spaces or girls' spaces because that would be unfair. And you're like, why would trans girls? Right? And the subtext is always because they're really boys, they're really men, and that's inherently unfair, and they're inherently men, and basically men are inherently superior to women. So, but it's good. It's good to hear her say it. But I appreciate Stephanie for helping us understand this point. And we've got to be able to address this in particular. Like, this is something we have to develop an equally sharp tongue about, so that when people say this, especially fuckfaces who are not right-wing bigots, but who are spewing right-wing talking points, we need to explain to them why that's a right-wing talking point, and then remind them of the significance of equal participation for everyone. Speaking of which, I think another thing Stephanie's always reminding us of, because again, she's an elite athlete, is that the Olympic Committee has already addressed this issue. There's already infrastructure in place in a given sport for this to be addressed at the highest level and all the way down. And the top priority, again, according to the experts and the people whose job it is to regulate sports, is that everyone should participate in sports unless we have some indication of some sort of systematic unfairness. And we just you don't have that as a blanket assumption in any given sport with regard to any given athlete. And importantly, the standard cannot be victory, right? Sports is a competition. Everybody shows up to win. No one wants to lose. So we cannot say you're a trans girl and it's cool for you to do everything girls do except win races. You can race, but if you don't come in like third or fourth, then we're just going to say you have an unfair advantage. So what? Again, the proper response is that was a fantastic race. Man, you have really been training hard and practicing great, and whew, I got some work to do, but I'm gonna try to get you next time, right? Because sportsmanship is sexy.
Of course not. That wouldn't be fair. So you're framing the question in a way that determines the outcome, but then letting the person reading the question feel like it was their own idea, that it was unfair. Using these findings, conservatives ran with the approach of barring trans kids from competing in sports, because according to the research, that's what got voters riled up. And then that quickly snowballed into the think of the children rallying cry that is so popular amongst conservatives, which then led to questions of children being turned trans in schools. What books are being taught in our schools that need to be banned? And wait, why are kids even transitioning and playing sports for a different gender to begin with? Think of the children. And we should probably ban those medical procedures because they seem wrong. And voila, the conservatives had themselves a new wedge issue that would once again galvanize the voter base and get them to turn up in the polls. In March 2020, Idaho became the first state to bar transgender girls from participating in girls' and women's sports, which was called the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. And 1 year later, Arkansas became the first state to enact legislation making it illegal for minors to receive transition medication or surgery. This legislation was based on model language first used in South Dakota that didn't initially pass there, but created the framework that was then used nationwide to curb trans rights.
And again, this is just super fucked up. And it's a setback, a real setback. And it's how the right wing gets wins. It's how they get wins they have no business getting. Because before they're making this the hot button issue of the day, people need care, they can get care. It's hard to, I think like it's hard to deal with a lot of the social situations, right? So most of us are trying to produce new social norms that create a new environment where it is much easier for people to have these types of transitions because we're recognizing the needs of an underserved group. But the backlash from the fucking bigots then yields fucking concessions. And rather than us actually being able to celebrate potentially, creating new norms that are more accepting, we're actually having to deal with deeper political and legal entrenchment against these people. And it's super fucked up in the case of the kids because they're kids. And how awful it is to, Steph talks about the second puberty, like the go through puberty, then later in life you have a second one, learning to live your truth. How much better would it be if we integrated those so that people could experience their childhood years to the fullest? And for us to deny people that in a struggle for political power, to use that as this is what I mean about the people that do this are evil. Like they're evil. And it's why I'm not the best person. I guess I'm not an effective communicator about these things because I'm not here to fucking tell people it's okay and we have to agree to this. No, these people are just bad. Like these people, these are bad people. If this is your motivation, is this what you use? And also you suck. You fucking suck. Just say a lot of us have been, part of the civic process, maybe worked with people or close to people who are candidates or who are elected officials or who are public servants. And let me just say, all you guys suck. You're ass at this. If you don't have anything better than bigotry, to use for votes to bring to the you're awful. Like you literally, you definitely 100% chose the wrong profession. You bring absolutely nothing of value. You just use fear mongering and weaponized hatred as a means to gain power. You're literally a fucking virus on the species of humanity. You are definitely dog shit at your job. Most certainly.
Language was created by lawmakers in cahoots with religious right-affiliated groups, including the Child and Parental Rights Campaign, the Alliance Defending Freedom, the Phyllis Schlafly-founded Eagle Forum, and a fringe conservative doctors group that calls itself the American College of Pediatricians. Email exchanges obtained by Mother Jones show members of these groups pushing lawmakers in South Dakota to make the laws more restrictive and to ensure that the language was ironclad. At least 18 states have introduced legislation with language mirroring the original model bill created for South Dakota, and the religious right has helped establish a sophisticated playbook to get this legislation passed, including pushing disinformation, utilizing the conservative media to instill fear, and even capitalizing on the handful of vocal people who have detransitioned and now are a powerful tool for conservatives, hoping to show that because this one person regrets having transitioned, then all of trans affirmative care is bad and dangerous. These anti-trans bills are not popping up on a state-specific level from local grassroots movements.
And y'all know fuckface Doug gets on this fucking detransition bullshit. This is the worst talking point imaginable. Again, the rare time that we're talking about somebody who's gone through with a medical transition that they later regret is less than people who regret knee surgeries. Now, please tell me about all the podcast content, newspaper articles, and electoral campaigns based on eliminating the dangers of knee surgery. The solution to understanding this issue is so painfully fucking obvious that it kind of bothers me that I have to say this out loud. But let's just start with fact number one. There's a lot of fucking people out there. So yeah, rare shit happens. People get struck by lightning. People win the fucking lottery. People fucking, I don't fucking know. They do other shit that's fucking rare and prestigious. They set world records, all that fucking types of shit that most people are like, I cannot even imagine something like that happening to me. And yeah, one of those incredibly rare things is sometimes somebody regrets transitioning. But also, gang, as far as I understand it, those people were about that transition life before they transitioned. And so regret is something all of us have to deal with. But a lot of us recognize certain things that we were definitely going to do if the opportunity presented itself. Because at that time, that's just what it was. I have enough money to buy this camera, I'm buying that shit. I get a chance to buy that motorcycle, I'm on it. I get a chance to go back to school for whatever, right? So it's just part of your journey. Like you did that. You needed to see what was on the other side of that fence, and it turns out, the other side of that fence wasn't quite right for you. That certainly is no kind of, in any way, shape, or form, an argument against allowing other people to go through that. And it's totally a bad faith one. Also, from what I can tell in the few cases I've heard, like people seem to be okay, right? Like they transitioned, wasn't right for them, that led to a different sort of stress and maybe new dysphoria and maybe other symptoms that they'll talk about, and then they transition back to the what they were assigned at birth. And to me, that also just represents the spectrum, right? Where when you really understand a spectrum, it means that on no trait or no aspect of this issue is there a neat little package that lines up where somebody's going to be all the way consistent as one or the other, and that's just part of that's just how it is. I think that's the same even for, say, like cis people, right? I don't if you were to like say, and I'm cool with spectrums. You could say there's a spectrum where people that tend to be male or identify as men or whatever the particular aspect we're talking about are like this, and then people who identify differently are kind of over on this side, and then if you lined up all my traits, you'd be like, yeah, okay, you probably fall on that end of the spectrum enough times that it just isn't an issue for you. But I don't think I'd be that on everything. And so for some people, they're like, I don't know, maybe they become genuinely convinced that they would be more aligned if they made that change. And then it turns out that they regret that. But again, this is just such a I can't imagine what it's really like to go through that. But it's some pretty heavy shit. And I just think it's awful that people weaponize stories like that for political or economic or whatever gain. And I think it's important that the LGBTQ community hear people say that, maybe, right? Because at some level, it's really not okay that we're even having this conversation. And I think the same way when people talk crazy, right, about like the war in Ukraine, for instance, like you'll hear dumbasses on the right be like, yeah, or even people on the left be like, oh yeah, if I get elected, I'd solve that shit on day one, and we'll be that war come. I'm like, bro, like, you have any like idea what people are fucking dealing with and acting like you just gotta, like, that's wild. But there's a way in which they're literally disregarding the atrocious reality of the fact that there are humans right now experiencing war. To me, it is just it's a medical thing. I don't, I got my own medical shit. I'm bipolar. I don't hide that. That's one thing I guess I could talk about, because I talk about that openly. But I just there are times, like for instance with gun violence, where mental health is talked about in a way that really bothers me. Right, because it's just it's sort of the go-to for everybody. As soon as somebody does a mass shooting, well, wait, there's a mental health problem in this country. But wait, why y'all throwing us under the bus? Hold on, I take my medication and meet with my shrink on the regs. You know what I'm saying? Like, that unchecked, undiagnosed motherfucker over there, and y'all have no, like, what? Don't get me started, right? It's just something people don't think about. They thoughtlessly just go straight to that because we need something to peg this on when tragedy strikes. But this is a similar thing, not a similar thing, but this is another one of those things where, as if I'm going to make content about it, I really do think about the shit that we're presenting, the shit that we're talking about. And I'm like, God damn, y'all, can you imagine going through transition on a real detransitioning on the real, trying to live authentically about what that is, and then just having that used against your community. That's just monstrous.
To create laws in their own state. It is a nationwide, concerted, and strategic effort by outside forces who want to come in and influence state elections. And while it is very common and truly preferable for lawmakers to consult with experts on the bills that they're writing, that becomes a very different story when the experts are spouting pseudoscience, largely motivated by a specific religious doctrine that they'd like to impose on everyone, and working in concerted, strategic ways throughout the country. The result of this effort is a dramatic rise in anti-trans bills, with nearly 500 winding their way through the legislative process this year alone. This despite the fact that a 2021 PBS NPR Marist poll showed that 2/3 of Americans oppose bills limiting the rights of transgender people. However, these bills, of course, aren't posed as limiting the rights of transgender people. They're pitched as securing rights for women in sports and as protecting children from woke indoctrination and grooming. And these talking points and fears have their root both in the bedrock of the religious right, but also in the growth of white power movements since the election of Donald Trump. Remember last week when we talked about book bans and how Nazis burned tens of thousands of books to symbolize a new, clean, reborn Germany? Well, a lesser-known fact about Nazi book burning is that a significant number of books that were burned were part of the library of Jewish sexologist Magnus Hirschfeld, whose Institute of Sexual Studies was the first clinic in the world to provide surgical interventions allowing trans people to live in the bodies they wanted. The institute opened in 1919 and provided care and sought to dispel shame around same-sex relationships and gender nonconformity, as well as publishing path-breaking research into trans affirmative care. And nearly a century later, white nationalist horror at gender nonconformity and hatred towards trans people remains at the center of far-right movements in the United States. A post from July 18, 2021 on the neo-Nazi blog Occidental Observer by open white supremacist Andrew Joyce is an example of this. In the post, he attacked both Magnus Hirschfeld's activism on behalf of LGBTQ people and a 1934 book that condemned racism in all its forms, saying, "Love as a concept was altered and weaponized by Hirschfeld, who imbued it with transcendental and cosmic qualities in an effort to distance it as much as possible from biological reproductive drives. Racism, homophobia, and transphobia, which together essentially boil down to the idea that whites should be able to live normally and by themselves, are perceived today as beyond the sphere of this deified love and are therefore representative of a kind of modern heresy." Basically, gayness, gender nonconformity, and anti-racism are seen as an attack on the existence of white people. This is a stark example of how racism and transphobia are intertwined in the modern white power movement. Gender nonconformity threatens their worldview, one that is fixated on immutable and antiquated gender roles, where white women are seen as walking wombs that must be used to replenish the declining white birth rates and reverse replacement of the white race by non-white children. The desirable qualities in a woman are chastity, submission, and silence, and the vitriol and hate being spouted on far-right neo-Nazi chat rooms and blogs is often reiterated and given validation by Fox News hosts, prominent influencers spouting disinformation and pushing the narrative that LGBT people are child groomers, like Libs of TikTok, a Twitter account with over 2 million followers, and via speeches by Donald Trump, where he either blatantly espouses the same values or gives the Proud Boys a nod and a wink on national television. Writer and researcher Talia Lavin sums it up well in a recent article, writing, "What the far right proclaims through explicit street violence, it wants to reinforce with the implicit violence of the state. Bills that seek to suppress anti-racist education, anti-trans legislation that seeks to codify antiquated gender roles, and the severe and continual restriction of abortion rights in states with right-wing legislatures typify the ways hatred of gender nonconformity, a desire to control women's bodies, and racism intermingle." As a result of this, the last 2 years have been the deadliest for transgender people, especially Black transgender women, with nearly 1 in 5 of all hate crimes motivated by anti-LGBTQ bias. Trans Americans are 4 times more likely to be victims of violent crime. 86% of trans or non-binary youth reported in a 2022 survey that they experienced negative effects on their mental health stemming from the political debate around trans issues, and nearly half had seriously considered suicide in the past year. Because
we fucking feel you, kids. Like this is a rough time.
Again, say it with me, it's never been about protecting children. So why are conservatives so obsessed with trans kids? Because they're an easy scapegoat and a new way to once again fearmonger their base into turning up at the polls to vote. And what can you do about it? You have to be more stubborn than them. You have to show up to vote, especially in local elections where this is happening. You have to get into the ear of your lawmakers, your city council members, your school board members. Be relentless. The power in the conservative movement, especially in the religious right, is that they're active in local politics and they show up. So you just need to show up more. If you liked this video, you'll also like my last video about why conservatives are obsessed with banning books.
Whew. All right, gang, we made it. Yeah, this is a tough one, but like I said, I think she's right, and I think this is the time that the same way I think, I think integrated schools are better, diverse schools are better, and as much as people fought back against that, things are way better because it is so normalized to want to be around people that are different than you are. I really think that in the end, right? Like, things are going to be way better because I do think the majority of us want to see equity for our LGBTQ fam. But right now is an incredibly difficult time. And so I hope everybody had a joyous Pride Month. But I do appreciate this video. I thought this was a really well done video, and it touched on so much of the important historical points that some of our friends and other content creators have emphasized as well. So I think it's good for us all to keep this in mind. With that being said, the thing that keeps swirling around in my head is we're not going to solve this problem until we deal with the elephant in the room. In the same way that it's incredibly disappointment to have the Supreme Court rule against affirmative action, because you can't solve a problem racism created without race consciousness. You can't solve the problems religions keep creating without dealing with the religions. And I mean that to me that's the cause of our time. Now it's so interesting because it feels like for many of us that's the cause of our life. Like that, it's crazy for a lot of us that we grew up religious, but not just religious, like as religious as we did. Some of us definitely on that life for tip, or we were going to be ministers, or we're from families of ministers, or, we were going to be apologists, or we're, worship leaders, all this type of shit. Like really hardcore, right? And one of the greatest changes in our life is, when they show you that heat map, right? They show you that heat map of where people where people are born or where they live or whatever, and how much that determines their religion, right? Because it's what you get from your parents. So it's so crazy for us that we broke up out of that. But it feels like our personal journey needs to just be a microcosm of the macro journey that our society needs to go through. And if you just even look at a sample of 2020 on, when you look at the complete failure of religious institutions in response to the pandemic. Literally becoming the problem, right? Becoming the lethality. Killing us. Literally, we had studies almost instantaneously telling us we couldn't do mass gatherings that were based on using the church as an example. International headlines where 3-4 dozen people all died from COVID from the same choir, whatever the fuck it would be. And they were protesting closures. So they just wanted to go to church anyway. They were the center of the anti-mask community, and they sabotaged the effectiveness of our vaccines. Probably one of the greatest scientific accomplishments of our lifetimes, and they fucking pissed on it. And we all sat there and watched. All the sacrifices all of us made to just try to stop the fucking stem the tide, right? Just sabotaged all of it. Then fucking George Floyd happens. And we're like, so? I'll be honest with you, like, yo, when the shit first happened, so? So what? So fucking what? The cops murdered a black man? Gang, are you? Please don't insult my intelligence. The cops murdered a black, what is it? Tuesday? Oh, okay, Tuesday. That's all that is. It's just fucking Tuesday. Fuck out of here. Cops murdered a black man. Nobody gives a shit. I grew up, you know, Rodney King was all in, nobody gave a shit. Emmett Till, nobody gave a shit. Amadou Diallo, nobody gave a shit. It's just a fucking story. Just a fucking story. Nobody gives a shit. They just talking about the weather today. Today it's sunny out and the black man was murdered on camera by cops. Who gives a fuck? Gang, I was wrong. Apparently, a lot of people decided no more not giving a fuck. All across the goddamn globe, people were in the streets protesting over this nigga. I was like, yo, what the fuck? Oh, y'all really trying to do something right now. God, I ain't gonna lie, as a black person, yo, the world really impressed me on that. I was like, y'all kind of shocked me out of my apathy. Like I was like, God damn, yo, the world is like, yo, fuck it, we done with these cops just murdering black people. We sick of this shit. I was like, yo, this is a real moment. Conservatives got pissed, started anti-woke, fucking all lives matter. Yeah, just raining on the parade, worried about all they could talk about is it shouldn't be in the streets, fucking Antifa's violent. What about them knocking over the Pepto-Bismol at Walgreens? Just they're just on the wrong side of everything. The conservative, religiously motivated fuckfaces are the reason they just undid affirmative action, right? Because let's be honest, right? They were the power players behind all that bullshit. Denying Democratic presidents their ability to nominate Supreme Court justices and making sure only right-wingers got to nominate Supreme Court justices who were definitely filtered through the fucking Heritage Society or whichever fucking fuckface organization controls that shit. So This is literally what they're about, y'all. They're about we just had a manufactured debt ceiling crisis. Who was that refusing to raise the debt ceiling? Them. And what was the solution to that? Throw motherfuckers under the bus. Throw working motherfuckers under the bus. And they still, right now, today, July 1st, 2023, Donald fuckface Trump, who's under literally 70 plus felony charges, right? Like 35-ish from New York, 35-ish in Florida on the Fed case, right? And we haven't even talked about all the we still don't even know. He about to get hit with some January 6 charges. He probably about to get hit with some more from keeps defaming the woman who just won a lawsuit against him. We got some shit probably coming out of Arizona. Come on, man. This man is trying to set the Guinness World Record for fucking criminality. And today, July 1st, 2023, he's the leading Republican candidate for president. When are we just going to say, you know what, we're done with this religious stuff? Nah, the religious right has just whatever shit we were supposed to give, it's gone, y'all. I don't have good vibes about Christianity. I don't have good vibes about Christianity. I don't have good vibes about patriotism. Like, it's just over for me. But I just don't think we're serious about this. I don't think we're serious about this because we really think we're going to solve this problem by continuing to beat around the bush. Again, we need to address the fucking elephant in the room. Every single time we need to make a move to get this society going in the right direction, the religious people are not having it. So what would I have us do? I would have us actually, that would be the talk of the town. The same way this country decided to be obsessed with Donald fuckface Trump and cover every single thing he does. It's over now. Exactly. It's over. It's just over. That cat's out of the bag. Sorry, like we're just not about that Jesus tip. And I'm serious, y'all. Because what it would do is, I'm not talking about pushing people necessarily out of their faith. I'm talking about allowing us to have a national conversation about what the influence of religion really is. And if you really point these things out, I just think it shifts the landscape a little bit. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm really seeing. It's like, you see some people like Joy Reid on MSNBC, you know, certain people on Fox News, like you'll see it. Like, you know, they got a little sliver of white Christian nationalism in their talks about January 6th, or in terms of who continues to support Trump and different things like that. But the problem there is they put so many qualifiers in front of it that most Christians who are actually enabling this shit just think they're not talking about them. Because once you say white, fundamentalist, evangelical, Christian nationalist, extremist, terrorist, you know what I'm saying? You put so many qualifiers on it. One of those words in there, everybody pretty much hears something that's not them. So, matter of fact, I was going to do kind of I might do a stream on like Steve Harvey, right? Because to me, like, perfect example is most black Christians, right? Like most black Christians who, trust me, y'all, they're really politically conservative. You just kind of assume they're liberal because they're black. right? And because they're black, they got a little bit of that wolf in sheep's clothing thing going on because they do vote Democratic, right? But they mostly vote Democratic because, again, they're black and they know that voting Republican is usually voting for racist. So you think they're good to go, but they're not good to go. They're not fucking good to go. They're literally fundamentalist Christians. Talk to them for more than 5 minutes and you will realize they can't have more than a 5-minute conversation about anything serious without talking about how good God is and how much they love God, how blessed they are. They're religious fundamentalists. Most of them are like neo-Pentecostals, part of some charismatic fucking bullshit ass church with theology. There's no theology. It's just all the choir's dope and the preacher is on fire. And when you rail about right-wing, white, fundamentalist, evangelical, extreme terrorist, blah, 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 you're not talking about them. You're not, Catholics don't think you're talking about them. So don't go, progressive Christians don't think you're talking about them, right? People who are just culturally Christian don't think you're talking about them. Now, when you start to have the conversation about, yeah, everybody who is on that Jesus is the reason for the season tip, yeah, all of y'all, yeah, well, guess what? Jesus is the reason for the season, and this is the season of fucking bigotry and fucking destruction and the fucking downfall of fucking democracy for everybody. So congratulations, you are the fuck, look who won the goddamn pony. Y'all got to be out there and be the lead dog. And guess what? You have led us off a goddamn cliff into a fucking mega fucking valley of shit. And it is time to have an honest conversation about your goddamn leadership abilities. And so we need to broaden this conversation. Because again, if we're not going to talk about the problem that enabling this entire fucking late stage capitalism, Christo-fascist theocracy, then we're not going to solve these fucking problems. Because what happens is the same motherfuckers who are sitting here talking about, oh, I'm not racist. I think we all, I don't even see color. Everybody's equal to me. And I don't have a problem with the LGBT community. They are all in church on Sunday morning, amen and hallelujah, and talking about traditional Christian values and the virtues of the nuclear family and all of this bullshit. And they are willing to give that church, who is completely untaxed, 10% off the goddamn top and call that shit patriotic. Are you fucking kidding me? So, look, those of you that are on this anti-theist, down with the man shit with me, I appreciate y'all, love y'all. And please know that we are doing necessary, even if very, very dirty and difficult work. And I love having this community that, makes me feel empowered to speak out about these things. This stream has been 3 hours. I don't know how long. We was probably going for like an hour or more before this late as shit now. So let's go hang out and gather. I'm going to release y'all. I know people probably, there's been a lot of shit going on. I don't know, man. I haven't been able to stream for a while. So the last couple streams, man, I've just been going in. I'm trying to just take it easy this weekend. So I don't really have anything pressing on the schedule, man. I'm trying to just really connect with y'all, man. Missed you guys. And really just want to get into some things with y'all. So thank y'all so much for hanging out with me. It's definitely good to be back. It's good to see everybody. Thanks so much for the love and support. And yeah, come link up with us and gather. I don't know what's going on tonight. I know there's a new Uncle Bobby, so we're probably going to watch that. And then afterwards, we'll see what people want to get into. We'll probably be playing games, hanging out. Those of you that know your way around the map, we're at the Tiki Bar on the beach. Those of you that don't, just don't worry. When you come in, it'll send you to where we're at, or you can follow us once you get in there. But love you guys so much. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow for Hot Program.